Is the mic on? Okay. Yeah, yeah. Okay, call this work session to order. Wednesday, June 5th. Open for visitor comments. Yep. Come on up. State your name.
Thank you, sir. William Goulart, member of the Flying Eagle here in St. Helens. William Goulart, yeah, Willow Bill, Wild Bill, all the above. So it's that time of year again. I have first squad right back there, you guys. So I get 3 minutes, right?
Yep.
5. Excellent. So could I get something on the YouTube, real quick? Could we put YouTube on there? Excellent. YouTube Flying Eagle Canoe. This is something that came to me since I've seen you last that I thought was very, very, very special. And it has to do with your guys' canoe and members of your audience and myself. Yeah, push that one right there. Excellent. Watch this, you guys. Members of your audience made this.
Dang it, baby. Coming into the OC on the bobby seat. It was the
Come in.
Eagle Flying. The cold Patrick, the guy named Steve. Paddles were floating across the waters, what they be. There's a guy in there, like to spin the willow tree. As they headed to the falls, the sun shined on them. For the rest of their lives, those four, they'd be friends. But one was on her first trip on the sea. It was the eagle that flied that girl. Can't you see?
So Nicole Brown, who's inside your audience right now, put that together. I knew she was filming that day. I didn't know that this was going on YouTube, which I was asking her to put something out there so that we could all see. And I just want to say, Nicole, thank you so, so, so much. It was really cool. Somebody called and said, hey, Willow, they got a new Eagle thing on there. These are some of the fun times that we have on the Eagle. Rick, I did what you asked also. I went to the Grand Ronde Nation and spoke with them and trying to communicate and to put together this special thing that we have here in this town with obviously the special things that they have to offer this town and everybody else. Still waiting on a definite connection. I was thinking maybe the city might know if they were coming back this year again. Do you guys know this yet or not? This would be the Grand Ronde trip?
They have applied yet.
They haven't applied yet. Okay. So you see us canoe people are all alike. But I will continue to reach out to them, Rick, as I promised you I would. Because, you know, we want the Eagle to know all the canoes that are around here. So one last thing there is this. This is a picture taken a number of years ago of a good friend of mine. He was this kid right here. All four of these kids were Boy Scouts at the time. 4% of Boy Scouts go on to become Eagle Scouts. All four of these kids, after getting into the Flying Eagle, all achieved the rank of Eagle Scout. Not because they got into the Eagle, but it was something that happened on their journey, you know, and that's because of you guys. So I want to say thank you because my buddy Donald now is about to graduate from UNR, University of Nevada, Reno, and he's just an incredible man. And we know that Eagle Scouts in this country do great things, okay? Tomorrow is a very special day. Tomorrow is the 75th anniversary of Normandy. Tomorrow, our flag flies high. You guys have one of the biggest flags I've seen across this country. We got the Eagle put down there. We would like to do a number of events this week. We've somewhat talked about it. We're hoping that maybe we can get a tent from the city for the week. Any chance of that? A tent that would cover the Eagle? Do we have a large
Do we
tent
have
like that?
any tents that are about that size?
10 by 20 would be a good start. A couple 10 by 10s would work. We're just thinking of we want to present something down there very nice. We have the Eagle Fest going on down there, which we're creating. You know, it took many years to create the event that I gave you guys last year, where we go now to Beacon Rock, where we go now to the Blues Fest, where we go now to Captain Clark Park. We make a definite presence on the Columbia River. And that's in your guys' honor. That's in the honor of the 400 kids that carved it. It's in the honor of Lewis and Clark. It's in the honor of taking care of that water. You know, and that's one of the things that we spread is protecting the water. How about the safety out there? You know, life jackets, things like that. We promote all these things. So we're excited, and we're looking for any ideas. We need a tent. It's going to rain the next couple of days, and the Eagle's okay with that.
Mm-hmm.
Eagles fly around in the rain,
Yep.
and then they dry out. And so I promise you to take great care of the Eagle, and we're getting ready to do the trip again. It's going to be the 12th year, and so we're glad that you guys are all behind it.
Yep.
All right.
I know we definitely have a couple 10 by 10s, or at least I have one personally. It's just a
I'll check.
canopy.
I'll check.
And your work party is it this weekend, Willow?
It's tonight.
Starting tonight.
Yes, sir.
But probably the majority of the work, are you guys doing
If we get-
them food and stuff? Is that this targeted towards this weekend, which is nicer weather, by the way?
Saturday, exactly.
Yeah.
Friday and Saturday is going to be. Thursday and Friday. Thursday and Friday are going to be rough out there.
Yeah.
Saturday and Sunday are going to be the days that we're going to definitely have things going on out there. Yes.
So to the public out there, if you're wanting to help out with the Flying Eagle,
Correct. And I'm going to get with Nicole and with Julie a little more on maybe getting something out there more on their social pages also.
okay, you know where we're at, so come see us.
Absolutely. Thank you
Okay.
very much.
Thank you. Okay, other visitor comments, Les?
Les Waters. Sorry. First of all, on behalf of the Museum Association, thank you for the honor for the parade this year. We'll be happy to participate in that. But I'm not here because of that. I'm here on a different issue, which I visited you before almost 2 years ago, I think. Had to do with the fill that was going on North 2nd Street. By the way, that's your house when it had the hospital attached to the back.
Yeah.
So I'm talking, so I'm talking about this area down here, and at some point I want to have another conversation with you about this waterway and the naming of it. And I'm not going to bring that up now because it's fairly controversial.
No, I think I know exactly what you're talking
Right,
about.
we'd like to address that in an
Sure.
appropriate way.
Yeah.
However, that's not why I'm here either. So historically, this is kind of an important area. As you can see here, it was a waterway that was used for docks. There was also a lot of native artifacts that were collected here by families. Some of them are actually in the Portland Art Museum. So we're talking about an area that has some history here too, as well as what I'm really here about, which is this area here where the fill is going on. This was taken off of Google Maps back when I first appeared. And I came in and said that I was concerned that there was apparently no plan for this dumping that was taking place after that ravine had been excavated back when the city had to redo the water or the sewer line through there and segregate the stormwater. And you recommended that I visit the planning or the land use people, the committee, I don't remember what they're called exactly, which I
Planning Commission.
planning commission, and
Yes.
and I did,
Yep.
and you were there.
I
and-
was, and I apologize for the way you were treated at that by the chairperson at that.
Oh, that's okay. I mean, I didn't think that was an issue really. The issue was that here we are today, and it's happening again. And as far as I know, and been able to determine, there is no plan for what you're going to be doing there. And I really would like the city to have some sort of long-range plan on what they're doing there. We talked about emergency access. We talked about bicycle paths. But there, as far as I know or can find out, there's no actual plan, and so the city has been dumping there a lot of stuff again. And it's a different, I don't know if the fill is different, but I mean, there's a lot of debris in it as well. So I'm here again to ask what would be my next step to try and motivate the city to adopt a plan for that area.
Go ahead.
Well, I've been on the council for 12 years, and there's been talks with Public Works that possibly would serve as ingress, egress for the marina area.
Which I'm opposed to.
Yeah, okay, so, and the reason for that was for emergency vehicles, so
That
that
I accept.
emergency vehicles would not get trapped down in that marina area, so that they would have two ways out in case of fire.
Right, right.
So I sat in on a few of those discussions. From those discussions, there was never a plan. You're absolutely correct. It was pretty much just kind of like, well, get that filled so that it could be utilized in some functional way. So that's what I was left with. Yes.
And that's my understanding, that the city's operating under that assumption too. Let's just fill it. But I really feel that it deserves more than that sort of vague plan. And bicyclists or emergency vehicles, that makes perfect sense to me. If you're going to make it a connecting road for all the boats and equipment to come up through there, I think then there needs to be a plan, and there needs to be an opportunity for the neighborhood to comment.
Is that what you would suggest? A byway for emergency vehicles for egress? If there
I
was
haven't talked to anyone else. My personal feeling is that yes, there should be an opportunity in an emergency to have another way out.
Yeah.
However, and pedestrians as well have another option for them to get down to the river. It's always good. They've taken away a lot of the street there. They've vacated a lot of First Street through there. So how that would be incorporated into this and how it would get connected, or if you would just be connecting to a private landowner, that to me I think it should be studied and evaluated, and
Right.
what the city's resources are going. If you're just going to support one business person, is that appropriate? Or should it be more for the value of the community?
Yes.
So,
So-
I personally, I think, I know we left 50 feet on First Street. We have 50 foot there. We gave 15 feet to each side on First Street. Personally, I would like to see a walking path, but big enough for a chain to have a padlock for emergency personnel
Right.
to actually have the key to that lock in case stuff happens. That's the only time it's used, and just be because it ties right in with the park right across the street, the opening the other side. So that's what I would like to see for trail connectivity. Personally, that's what I.
Yeah, and we all have different concepts
Yep.
of what that should look like, but if you have a plan, then I think everybody has the same thing in front of them and can agree to. I'm not saying that the neighborhood would support what I'm saying. I'm
Yep.
just telling my personal opinion on what I'd like to see. So if you tell me what to do next, or if you want to contact me later and let me know what you think I should do, or somebody else, I'd appreciate that, because I would like to see
Sure.
this happen.
Maybe help out on that too. That's what I hear you saying, right? Maybe
could.
even help out on a concept and see what we
Right.
can.
Likewise.
Yeah.
Okay?
One of
That's
the
all I-
things that should be done right now, there's getting to be a bunch of erosion of the water coming down Second Street from both above and below the this area that's starting to erode the bank, which isn't very good. So I think the city ought to look into keeping the water in the street and getting it all the way to the bottom of the hill.
Are you talking about the mud and stuff that's gotten in
That
the
is
street
correct.
and runs down? Yeah, they haven't been cleaning up very well. But I wasn't here to complain about that. I'm more concerned about long range and that it's done properly.
Oh, so when we had that rain, their travels in and out drew a bunch of mud out on the road. Is what you guys are saying?
I think
Okay.
so.
All right.
Mhm.
Well, definitely, I'll pass that down to Dave Elder. Or Sue will.
Okay. Well, if I don't hear anything, you'll be seeing me again.
Hey, thanks for bringing the photo. That's
This one?
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
cool.
and this is like a little tiny part of a postcard that I scanned and blew up. And there's a lot of interesting things going on here, including the dock and the masted schooner out in front of the courthouse, if you can see that.
Yeah. Yep.
And you can tell the date.
What year
and-
do you suspect that is?
Well, the clock and the bell were installed in 1911, and they're visible here, so it's probably about that time.
Okay.
1911 or 12.
All right.
Okay, thank you for your
Thank
time.
you. Yep. Okay, other visitor comments?
Good afternoon. Patrick Trapp, Port of Columbia County. Just want to give you a last report here of things that were happening at the end of last month. The port did approve the Devon Air lease, which again was the air charter service. And I asked, just a couple aircraft that they've got, no jets, all turboprop aircraft that you were asking about last time.
Oh, great.
What type of aircraft? So, today the port had a meeting and we approved the budget as well as our tax increment for the next year, and we approved a change, second amendment to Next Energy Site Development and Option Program, and basically just to squelch any of some of the concerns that came up was that they're going to make LPG. No, that's incorrect. They're not making LPG. They've got a byproduct which is a substitute for propane, but it's a synthetic substitute basically that they are all using internally to reduce their carbon footprint as well as provide their own energy needs on the site. So that's one that hopefully we've put that to bed again for another time. This is being rushed. No, that's not the case. Again, this is not a lease. This is a site development and option, which they actually was approved last year around August, October timeframe. And now that there's some additional land available that's already zoned, because Northwest Innovation departed that site, they've requested to move into that site, and that's what this second option was looking at. And they have made two announcements that you've seen. One from Shell saying they're going to buy all the material they can make, which is the green diesel or renewable diesel. And the second one's from BP, which just came out, I guess, a week or so ago, which is basically that they're going to provide all the feedstock the plant needs in order to make the green diesel, i.e. renewable diesel. They're still waiting for two or three others that want to be investors in buying the material, but have yet to gone public on that particular area. And the final thing is received again, I think you already come out, the LUBA decision, which was they actually extended to the Court of Appeals regarding the rezoned property. And the Court of Appeals basically found that LUBA was correct in their decision. And in their decision, as a reminder, there were 9 or 10 things. 8 of the 9 they found in favor of the port. The last one, which dealt with compatibility, they remanded. There seems to be some confusion. People think that was a loss and or disapproval. Again, there's 3 parts to that. You either disapprove, you approve, or you remand, basically saying we need more information to make a decision. So that's where they are right now. One issue left for that rezone, and that's remanded back to the port or back to the county that we will address and then go from that point forward. Barring any questions, that's all I have for you.
Patrick, I've got a comment. That when is your term up?
The end of this month.
The end of this month, and I just want to say that you've made a profound difference in a communication link between the council and the port. Being here, reporting every meeting, and your reports are very thorough and they are very well received. I can't thank you enough.
Oh, my pleasure. And this will probably be my last. I'm not going to be here for the next board meeting. I'll be out of town, but
Well, then
so I won't
I'd
have
like
anything to
I'd
report.
like to also, thank you for your service and your reports too as well. That's very right on.
Well,
I'm going to ask
Appreciate
you a hard question, though.
live for it. Live for it.
How many trains are we expected to see through here in 5 years from now?
Well, I guess crystal ball is still cloudy on a lot of those things, but over the last since I think it was June of 2016. Actually, back up November. I think it was November of 2015 was the last oil train. In June of 2016 was the first ethanol train. Since that time frame, From then until now, that's all that's been shipped, and it averages 3 trains per month. So unless that changes, that's what should be expected, or if things remain the same. But again, commodities change, interests change, and demands change. So anything could be expected. As for the next energy project, as a reminder, that is not dependent nor expected to add any additional train traffic through the county.
Can you tell me how many cars per train?
It for the ethanol.
Yeah, what do you call a train for the ethanol?
Well, the Port Westward deals in unit trains versus
Unit trains, how many cars?
It can be depends on the product. So in this case, for ethanol and or for oil, that was traditionally between 104 and 110 cars per train. If it's that could change. If it's corn, that may change to 100 unit cars, hypothetically. Not that we're not interested in propane, but as an example, propane unit trains are only like 19 cars. So it all depends on what the product is. Mm-hmm. And then the other trains that come through are manifest trains, which are basically the other 22 users of the rail system that basically put pieces and parts to make up a train that could be anywhere from 70 to 90 cars long. Those are the ones that you see stopping and backing up and using the yard that you've got located here in St. Helens to build or dismantle the train pieces and parts.
And in the past year, I believe the port approved a maximum amount of train traffic that could pass through. Is that per month?
No, actually, that was approved in 2013. In 2013,
wasn't it amended?
No, there was no amendment. There's no change.
Just the LPI.
Yeah, API.
API.
Yeah, there's the amount of traffic, the rail. Again, we can't control the rail itself.
Right.
All we do is what we allow on our site at Port Westward. So that was established in 2013, and it was a tiered component. The first one was allowing them no more than 24 trains per month. That was based on the capability and the status of the rail at the time. At that point, it took about 3 to 4 years, maybe 5, that the increase of the improvements to the rail system had occurred, and at that point, they now have, I want to say, up to 32 trains per month that they could do for going to Port Westward. So,
yeah, I just heard that in a conversation, and I thought, wow, I don't think that's right. Call the port and find out.
Yeah, so 2013, and again, I can't anticipate any, as long as it's a single lane track. Again, that capacity and what that equals to is basically like a 1.1 train per day. Mm-hmm. That's the equivalent of that as it works its way through. And when I say train, that's one in, one out. Oh, any other questions?
I'm going to start calling you the train whisperer.
My goal has always been to make sure to get the accurate information out there. Unfortunately, that's not the case. Some people like to propagate or take a different tact.
Yeah, I don't believe that happens around
Rumors
here.
Come on now.
Anyway.
And then I guess, for our citizens and for the record, is there appropriate times that the train traffic is sanctioned to go through our cities? Does it go through, always at business hours or always at rush hour kind of thing? Or is it sometimes go through at 2 or 3 in the morning can you elaborate on that just a bit?
Only what I'm not the,
I know.
in spite of what you may think, I'm not the rail guy. However, there is no prescribed schedule for the unit trains that would service the port's tenants at Port Westward. However, we have worked, I think, very closely with P&W Rail, the operator of this short line, to try to avoid certain times. And that in particular is during rush hour and when the schools are embarking or debarking their students at the schools themselves. So we've been trying to work with the rail to that, and they said they would do that as best they can, keeping in mind that they aren't controlling the schedule either. So there's only a few places to hold those unit trains when they come in. In this case, it's just passed around St. John's. So.
Thank you.
Sure thing.
John, did you have something you wanted to?
Oh, I was just going to comment that as you were giving your presentation earlier, you looked over at each other and started to crack up. There was an antelope in a suit when it went over the back of your head. You didn't see that. There was no.
We're not letting.
Yeah,
we're
thanks for
about you.
clarifying.
He's used to laughing me at from Kiwanis meeting, so it's okay.
It's not just about you. Probably if there's anybody watching this meeting, there was an antelope that went by with a suit on. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you very much. Have a great day.
All right. Okay. Any other visitor comments? Okay, seeing none, let's get a Columbia County Economic Team semi-annual report. Chuck Daughtry, Executive Director. Hey, Chuck.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yep.
Kind of got a gimpy leg. I spent the last 2 weeks in Paris, and I was riding birds around all the time. I didn't realize how stressful those were on your joints, and I'm getting old. So, but I made it up here. So here I am. Wanted to give you a quick report on where we are. So we are going through a reorganization of CSAT, and last May we approved a new set of bylaws, and then we looked at expanding our executive board. So we've added our selection committee met yesterday, and we're going to recommend to the board that we expand from 8 to 12 members for our executive committee, and including John Walsh. We're glad that John came in. He did okay on the interview. He did
Barely squeaked
pretty
by.
good. We graded on a curve, so
Yeah.
we were able to get him aboard. So, and we're tickled that you're going to be part of that group. We're very excited about having you on board. Our annual meeting is scheduled for for Tuesday, June 18th, at the St. Helens Library in our office there. I don't know if we've booked the room yet. I guess we have to make sure we do that. But we'll ask our members to approve the executive board slate of the candidates, and we've added a representative from Northwest Natural as well as Global. So I think trying to get more businesses involved with CSET as opposed to governmental organizations. And also our annual budget, which is expanding due to a number of activities. So we recently added a 501c3 to our organization, 501c6 we have, and now we have a C3, that's the Columbia County Business Association. And we are using that to fund the Tourism Committee, as well as Keep It Local Columbia County and other types of not-for-profit grant money that we could receive for economic development purposes. So the Tourism Committee, we've had a whole bunch of meetings. There's been several new projects that have received funding for that. There's some really exciting things that are going on in terms of countywide projects. We've established a budget of $81,000 to fund the committee's activities for the next year. Our next meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, June 11th at Next Adventure at the Scappoose Bay Marina. We're really excited about the direction the Tourism Committee is going, and we think we're making a positive contribution. Keep It Local Columbia County, CSET will continue to strongly support the Buy Local campaign. I think it's a critical part of educating people that we have 80% of our population works outside of the county, and when they take their dollars with them and spend it outside. We have about 50% less businesses in the county than we should have based on our per capita. So I think our effort has been not only to create jobs here, but also to encourage people to spend their money locally with local businesses. So we think it's real important. So we put $20,000 of our budget in an effort to maintain what we're doing with Keep It Local Columbia County. OMEC, Oregon Manufacturing Innovation Center. So Craig Campbell's fully on board now. They have 7 full-time employees in the R&D department. They have 23 industry partners now and 3 university partners. The R&D is working on 8 projects that are currently in work at various locations, and those projects are adding value to the members by helping drive down the cost of production or the timing. There are 10 more R&D projects that are currently under evaluation, and then there are another 10 that will evolve from a road mapping process put together with the members. So there's a lot of activity going on at the R&D Center. OSG, that's our first successful OMEC recruitment. They've purchased land for their regional headquarters, and they've hired their first employee, and that employee lives in St. Helens. So there is some overlap, and we think this is going to be more and more in terms of what happens in Scappoose and the impact that's going to have in St. Helens. Our task with OMEC has been to create the Oregon Manufacturing Innovation District, OMID, and we received grant fund of $40,000. We're going to use that to define the geographic area, the specific tax lots around the Scappoose Airport that will be included in this district, and then define what the district is. And that will involve coming to agreement with the property owners as to what type of businesses they want to recruit there. We're strongly encouraging them to recruit businesses that do metals manufacturing, because that's the heart of what OMEC is. We are Charles T. Parker Way, the road that connects West Lane Road to that goes into Scott Parker's property, received its final inspection yesterday, so you don't have to drive to the gravel pit anymore to get in there. Project was accepted. The city of Scappoose will be scheduling a public dedication celebration. I'll make sure the invitation goes out to this board as well. On the business recruitment side, we have 4 companies that are currently looking at sites near the OMEC R&D facility that fit the mold for what we're trying to do there. Right now, the big draw is Boeing. Boeing companies are looking to get into their supply chain, and so that's our hook, and that's what we're trying to market. Portland Community College, they've purchased land on Wagner Court across from West Lane Road from the OMEC building. They've indicated they'll have their campus operational by fall of 2020. So a big step. I think this was the only county in the state that didn't have a higher educational brick and mortar facility anywhere in the county. So I know we designated that as a target for CSET immediately after we started. So we're real excited about this opportunity that presents itself. Speaking of opportunities, the Opportunity Zone, John and I had a little discussion about that yesterday. What a powerful tool. I mean, the only zone designated in Columbia County is here. John indicated there's been quite a bit of interest, tremendous potential to attract capital, and we're willing to work with John on leveraging that. Tonight, right after this meeting with the county commissioners on the renewal of the Lower Columbia Maritime Enterprise Zone. We administer 2 enterprise zones, one for South Columbia County, which includes St. Helens, Scappoose, Vernonia, Columbia City, the port, and the county. And then the other is the Lower Columbia Maritime Enterprise Zone. I see my notes are a little incomplete here, Kathy. I'll correct that and send them to you. The Lower Columbia Maritime Enterprise Zone includes the county as well as Rainier, Clatskanie, and the port. Clatsop County had been a member of that for the Wanna Mill, and they decided that they created their own enterprise zone this last year, and so they took that back, so they're no longer a part, which is fine with me. I think they're much more difficult to work with than our county. McNulty Creek, working with the port on marketing a proposed spec building. It's a great, we've been encouraging the port for a number of years to build a spec building without a tenant for McNulty, and I know I think they've got a letter before you today for approval for
industrial site.
Industrial site. Is that for McNulty?
It is.
Yeah, that's perfect. That's exactly what they need to do. So yeah, we support that. So I don't know if I need to do anything more formal, but it's a great request. So I hope you sign off on that letter. Cascades Tissue setting up a meeting next week with the new general manager, Brian Dietz. Let me know if you're interested in attending, John. Armstrong, so I attended a meeting with DEQ, the city, and others concerning cleanup. Uplands is clean, the in-water works to start. Recommended Armstrong that they divide the site into 2 tax lots, make it easier to market the Uplands site if not encumbered by the water property. So sent a letter to Armstrong indicating that they do that. Interest in the site has somewhat softened over the last couple of months, but it's a tremendously valuable piece of industrial property. It's pretty unique. It has a lot of power, and it's kind of small for the amount of power that's there. But there's some of the site that's developable that is currently covered by sagebush and stuff. So hopefully we can get somebody in there. Great local success story, Control Solutions.
Sage or Scotch broom?
Well,
it's Scotch broom.
I don't think I ate it, so
Yeah.
it wasn't sage. So, yeah, I'm you would know.
I don't know. Yeah, that's why I said
That's
scratch
not
it.
my
I just
special.
corrected you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would just cut it. I don't know what it is. I wouldn't smoke it. Control Solutions, a great story. Local company, built from the ground up. They are expanding. They're in the process of submitting an enterprise zone application. They're going to construct a new building on property they just purchased in McNulty Way. It's a great story, and they have a wonderful product, and we're involved with that. Other projects we're working on in Rainier, A Street project starting to come together, $11 million on reconstructing that whole waterfront area. It's going to be absolutely breathtaking when it's done. It's a really, Rainier is a pretty special place, and I think that project's going to add a lot of value to the commercial section down there. The Foss site, we've been in discussions with Diversified Marine now for quite a while on taking over the Foss site. Diversified Marine operates up on Marine Drive, just off I-5. They understand that there's going to be a rebuilding of the I-5 bridge at some point that's going to impact their current operations. So they're looking for another site actively. Right now they're in the process of discussing environmental indemnification with Foss. They haven't wanted to involve DEQ. DEQ can help resolve that problem, but they've signed an agreement that they would just talk directly with Foss. So that's coming along slower than we had anticipated, but that'll be a nice addition to Marine. And then to Rainier. And then the diking district has been a big issue that we've been working on for the last year and a half, trying to get funding for the certification of the dike. Big issue. There's a tremendous amount of industrial property undeveloped right below the bridge, and it's just we were able to get the city and Redco and some of the private property owners in the county to kick in some funds to help fund the $190,000 certification process. The state also kicked in $100,000, so that's moving ahead. Pat Trapp talked a little bit about Next Energy, and he didn't mention what I'm interested in. It's $1.2 billion in new investment. And that's a staggering.
Who isn't interested in $1.2 billion?
That's a lot of money. 200 local jobs, $12 million in local property taxes annually, and then $5.5 million in fees to the port. So let's get in line. I think it's a tremendous opportunity. We're right at the start. We're not anywhere near the end, and these processes take time. And the port has gone through this dance a number of times with a number of different opportunities. This one seems to be different in so many respects because it'll lower the carbon footprint, and it'll also it doesn't use rail. So there really is nothing in my mind that people could object to this, but there will be. There will be people that will come out opposed to this. Vernonia, we're working with the city and also the tourism committee on connecting the Crown Zellerback Trail to the Banks Vernonia Trail. That's going to give us a regional hub into the Salmonberry Trail, which will connect to the coast. So it's all tied together. There's a lot of support in the tourism community for the Crown Zellerback Trail. And so we're working with the city of Vernonia on that. Columbia City, we've asked them to help us prepare a plan for the site next to Dyna Nobel. We'd like to create an industrial park subdivision. I think it's when we had an opportunity a couple of years ago at Mitsubishi there, we talked to John. The city of Columbia City didn't have enough water to supply an industrial site there, but the city came in and allowed us to put a proposal together that we would be able to come up with enough water. So I think that's probably still a part of the solution to getting that site ready to go. So we're gonna try to figure out how we can work with the property owner to fund the development of this. I think it's important for Columbia City, and some of that requires annexation. So that's all I have to report. If there are any questions, comments?
You talked about new manager for Cascades. Is that Scappoose you're talking about?
Both. Brian Dietz.
He's going to be over the mill?
That's
or
what I
over
understand.
both?
I'll have a meeting with him tomorrow. My understanding he's the new general manager for Cascades, and I didn't ask if it was for the one site or the other.
Oh.
Have you met him?
Well, we just got a new one for the paper mill.
Well, and so I know this mill has reported to the mill in Scappoose.
Yes, they have before.
So Brian is the new manager I know for the mill in Scappoose. I was assuming that the St. Helens site is so important to the operation of that. I think they're going to want to keep tight controls over both of them. So they might have a local manager and then a general manager and the whole thing. So if, John, if you're interested in,
When's that?
if you're interested in when I set that meeting up and attending, I'll send you an email, let you know when that is, or any of your commissioners or council.
I just have one comment, and it's not, other than me being mayor and out in the public, I've been being to the porch here, I figured this would be a good time to talk about it, is we have to answer to our community, and we are 1/4 of Columbia County. And everybody says Scappoose got stuff going on, and Clasconen's got stuff going on. Why? What is up with St. Helens? What are you guys? They're pointing at us saying, what are you guys doing wrong? And you guys, and I tell them, the port is #1 leader, and then CSAT would be driving OMEC, help drive OMEC, and it's nice to have Senator Johnson behind it. I mean, I just clearly point the facts out to them, because that's what it is. I don't know what else to tell them, you guys. Help me out.
Well, you know, and I want to speak for the port, but you know, when I first got here, there was more interest in the Boise site than any other site in Columbia County. We had Murphy Timber. We had a number of companies that were looking at the Boise site. It was prior to the acquisition by the city. So that kind of, in terms of marketing effort, we weren't really able then to. There was a shift in the use of the site, and there was a whole planning process that going through. I'm not being critical. I'm just saying fact that there was, you know, that the interest in that site and the property that was developable kind of lessened. We did bring Cascades Tissue in. That was right at the start. I think that was about 4 years ago, I think, when we closed that deal to get Cascades to. That was pretty important. 100 jobs and, you know, pretty sizable investment. The expansion of the site in St. Helens, in Scappoose, with Cascades, brought another $9 million of investment into the site here locally for Cascades. I know there's been some issues in terms of their operation.
It added limited jobs, really. I mean, it did add a few.
Well,
it
preserved.
Yeah.
Preserved. I mean, all those jobs would have gone away if the mill had shut down. And so, yeah, I think what the expansion in and we initially looked at building that site here in St. Helens. That was the whole objective initially. It wasn't to put it in Scappoose. It was to bring it to St. Helens, and that was all of our efforts went into that. And I think the rock issue out there with what they would have had to have done, quarried the site essentially to be able to get footings into the ground was prohibitive. That was one of the reasons. I think another one was probably union issues in terms of the union workforce here versus what they've got their agreements in Scappoose. So there were complications with that. I think the city is doing really creative entrepreneurial things.
Well, we're doing all we can because we are limited to what we can do. We have to serve a community, and that is all encompassed. Safety, livability of a community, and then trying to have a little bit of industrial property,
right,
and develop it. We're not the leaders in actually going out and seeking industry. We are not. That's what I guess that's what's frustrating to me. And I got Patrick behind you who's eager to step up. Can we have him come up just for a minute with you? Because while you both were here, I just wanted to catch you. I thought this was a perfect opportunity. Patrick, grab the mic and bring it over to you.
I can speak louder.
Please state your name.
State my name. There's a number of things. You know, you go back, and I'm only willing to speak for till 2011. That's when I arrived and started looking at things. But actually, St. Helens has had a fair amount of business attraction as well as expansion within port property. If you look at Multnomah, that industrial site, which I consider a huge success, as an example, when I first got here in 2011, it was still recovering from the storm damage, and you basically had 3 business entities out there. The pile.
Did the roof
even
cave in on it?
Yeah, the roof caved in on I think one of the largest buildings in the county.
Yep.
The old veneer plant, I think it was. So since that time, and again from a financial standpoint, if you just look at it from an income, we were making about $60,000 or somewhere along those lines, 160,000 a year on revenues. We've then since then invested 3.2 million, roughly, on that renovation spot, where now you've got a U.S. Pipe moved in with, I think, 40 or 50 employees. You have Composites that relocated from the airport, which has 65 employees and looking to expand that to about 70 plus. You have Orpet that built a new building and currently employs 25 to 30 people. That's just at Multnomah itself, the industrial park. You've had a Precision's Equipment move into McNulty Park in that area there. That site's been in and out. Oregon Aero used to be located there. It moved out. It was quickly filled by another entity that moved in there. You've had Black Hole that came in on Port Avenue that has since come and gone. Pacific Stainless, we sold the property, so they would relocate here, but they've expanded several times in the number of employees that they've had. Now, that being said, were there things that could have been done to expand and make that? Sure. One of which would have been, we were talking about this earlier, a number of years we came with the opportunity to designate the industrial properties as economic critical, that would retain it as industrial properties for 10 years. And then that would allow us to acquire state dollars and a few other things. Council, along with other councils, decided not to go that route, so that took that off the table as an opportunity. We've pre-certified one of the areas, and the McNulty area that we're also looking to build a spec building at. So,
and didn't we allow rezoning of breaking that up too, that lands? I remember you guys came to us something about.
It's a lot line adjustment.
Is that what it was?
And that was based
we
on.
approved that, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yes.
Staff would have to answer that.
I do recall we did.
And I think that was an issue of there were some improvements made that the port was unaware of, so we needed to do a lot line adjustment in order to address that. Then we've got Railroad Avenue, which has been an environmental cleanup for an extended period of time, 23 years to be exact, as the old Pulp and Talbert creosote plant. So that's actually 22 or 25 acres were no further action. And for that area, we've actually been able to lease that out on and off through various short-term users.
Just that little chunk of that's not no
well,
other action.
It's the one just off it. We have a building there, and people have been in and out. Yeah. But we've been able to cycle employment opportunities through there. Not a huge amount. But again, you take Rain Shadow. Mm-hmm. They have expanded. They're on their third expansion as it stands now in St. Helens. We've built them into a new building, and they've expanded with employees. So you've actually seen a fair amount in St. Helens.
But think of a $50 million or better. You got Cascade and Scappoose, and then you got $1.2 billion in Clascanine. And here's St. Helens that had 5 mills. I'm just telling you what we're hearing.
Well, I don't know where you're hearing from, but the
general public.
There has been challenges. I'll be very frank. Staff has said there's been challenges to working with the city on certain permitting and other things. I know you, as you articulated already.
Yes.
You're trying to balance all those desires, needs, interests throughout your community, which is fine.
Stuff I need to hear if
but there's still a challenge, and there are other communities that are a little harder, and other communities that are easier to work with. Plain and simple.
If it hurts. So, so that's. I just figured I'd ask the question. You guys, there's great things going on in Columbia County, and it does all trickle down. It does come and affect us as well. So, but I just had to ask that question, being I had you both here, and I get it quite a bit out there. I'm not making it up.
The commitment of the port to build a spec building at McNulty is huge, and I think that's we have a shortage of industrial sites, and I think we get a building built, we'll be able to market it.
Well, I think that,
and I would agree with Chuck Daughtry that we have the opportunity zone, which is huge. A lot of people like to 1031, but the opportunity zone gives them a chance to have a tax and free after 10 years of any building they build. Enterprise zone, it falls in with our urban renewal, all three. We need help.
Yeah,
I'm asking you guys for help right now.
Well, the port has and will continue to, I think, do what we can to attract. But the reality is, I think, as I mentioned before, we have a benefit that with the portfolio that we have, heavy industrial capabilities out of Port Westward, light aviation industrial capabilities in Scappoose, medium, and there's some heavy industrials here at St. Helens, but they're somewhat encumbered either through environmental challenges or other issues, or they're small parcels. And with that comes different challenges. We're going to place, at the time, we're going to continue to try to place businesses where they have the best opportunity for success based on the amount of space they need. As that tightens up, and should any of these folks come to Port Westward, then the amount of available land will be a challenge, and they'll have to look at smaller parcels. But right now, those big $1 billion, $2 billion projects are looking for large expanse areas, and you just don't have that here in St. Helens. We're talking about 100-plus acre parcels.
I think one of the things that historically that just prior to Chuck coming on board, the city made every effort we could to work with the port, and what we did was pretty unique. We expanded our enterprise zone so that Scappoose could take advantage of their development as well. So with that expansion, Scappoose was able to piggyback on that and work with our expansion zone, so expanding it. And that was quite a discussion in these council chambers, because if Keith can recollect on that, there was one individual who was speaking out saying, why should we do that? Why can't we take care of our city first? Why do we have to always look over our shoulder and take care of Scappoose? And what it ended up with was a council, I think very appropriately, came to the conclusion that, hey, we're all in this together, and we got to trust each other, and we got to work together. So in that sense, historically, I can see where the mayor's coming from, and I can see what the city has done, what this city has done in the past to try to get on board. I mean, really try to get on board and be a good partner as well. So I just wanted to reflect on that. We went to the League of Oregon Cities and gave a great presentation on the expansion of the enterprise zone and what it did for the port and what it did for our community at that time in need of that. We were right in the middle of the recession, and how that pulled us out and or helped pull us out. So anyway, I just wanted to reflect on that, and hopefully we continue to be good partners. And
yeah, because I personally questioned the enterprise zone, and Chuck remembers that. I personally questioned how successful it is when it's been in place this whole time, and we keep losing big businesses: Armstrong, Boise, Stimson. The list went on. I mean, we have 5 mills here.
Yeah, I think you've got, again, not just here. I think all of Oregon's have some challenges with as certain legislation comes in place, and the challenges it may have to big business is going to be a challenge not just here but across the state. But again, I think if I look back on port property, St. Helens has had more businesses and more development in St. Helens than any of the other locations. We've talked about big opportunity, and Global, really the only one that's come to Port Westward. PG, well, they already had that, so the port doesn't get any additional. They were already under their their strategic investment plan, which was going to limit the tax abatement. So there were some challenges with that, and only until recently, the airport, we built 2 new buildings there, but we've actually invested. We looked at this just the other day, or I did, excuse me. You look at Port Westward over the last 10, 12 years, I think the investment was close to $11 million. If you look at South County, which is predominantly just, in this case, St. Helens and Scappoose, the port's invested over $14 million in those areas to try to attract businesses, build buildings, and take care of that expansion opportunities. And most of that has happened here in St. Helens.
I think where we really feel it is with with the sense of jobs locally, and what we've lost is Boise, Stimson, and now Armstrong, and that's well over 1,000. It was well over 1,000 jobs, probably closer to 1,300 or 1,200 jobs.
Living wage jobs.
Oh,
Yeah.
The port's all for that. I understand. We agree. That's why we want to continue to try to facilitate and promote the opportunities that we have here.
And then we have to raise our water rates, and we get this huge outcry from the community because we have to, because Armstrong was a water user, and electric rates went up, you know. Or PUD even had to raise their electric rates. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you've got some challenge between PGE, PUD, the island.
We're second.
There's other things.
And we're second.
There's other things in play.
I always stress this too. We're second lowest property tax in Columbia County. It's not like we're running on 323 in Scappoose or 590 in Rainier. We're running on $1.90.1, and you guys can appreciate, especially the port being a levy, and understanding, you know, the district.
I think that the Vector collects more on taxes than the mosquito firm. So
Hey, no, I think so I just want you guys to hear this. I think we have probably about at least 50 buildable acres down there at Boise with shared parking lot. There's wetlands that encumber it, that are actually expanded. I mean, probably 70 to 80 acres site if we chose to use it all as one. If we get that big business, we're not going to turn it down. Just letting you know.
I think you have the challenge is how much power costs. I'm just being frank.
Yeah.
You're on an island there. Power costs are significantly different.
We are on an island there.
And that significant difference makes a difference to industry
You're
that
right.
wants to move in.
Yep.
That's a huge overhead. Sorry.
Have you got any idea what those rates are?
I don't. I know there's.
We've been trying to find out.
I've got that.
Do you?
I'll send you comparatively with
Yeah.
all the public power districts throughout the state.
Do we get our
So do you know
franchise fee
their
on that?
transmission rate and their rates are getting now from a third party? So you know that, okay.
But I mean, the business that come to us when we share all these things,
Yeah, yeah.
that's a factor.
Yep.
What is it
Oh,
going to cost us
absolutely.
for this?
Yeah.
And if that's, well, I'm going to go here then.
Yeah, so with the opportunity zone where they could actually, if they wanted to create an LLC to do the building itself and sell it to another business, and you know how that works. LLCs, another LLC leasing the building, then potential sell, and they get to walk away with the opportunity zone tax-free money in 10 years from now. And then the opportunity zone, they get a tax break for the business itself.
If the
Correct?
business can
Correct?
survive the 10
Yes,
years.
yes, but
I mean-
correct, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's the
So
reason I just.
there's two tax breaks.
Yeah.
So, I mean.
It's got to stay within the same, you can't just sell to anyone. It's got to be sold to another entity that's listed on the approved.
For opportunity zone?
For an opportunity zone. It's not
Okay.
selling to anyone. It has to be sold to another that's going to keep it.
And all the sites have some limitations in terms of the marketing of them. There's wetlands at McNulty that need to be mitigated. The sites are relatively oddly shaped in some manners. There's not a nice contiguous square site that we could work out a larger piece of property on. The Cascades site, we looked at that wouldn't work there. The Armstrong site is amazing in a lot of ways, but it's encumbered with some environmental issues in the water side that it takes a pretty sophisticated user to come in and understand how to not get liable for existing pollution on that site. So there's just, there's structural things, and we're competing statewide and also with Washington. So I think we're trying as hard as we can. I think, I think I've talked to this a number of times with Patrick and also with Doug about the need for the port to step up and do a spec building at McNulty Creek, and hopefully that building will have a tenant almost as it's being built.
I think, and there's a reason we couldn't build it before. We looked to put a new building out. The cost of the building was significantly higher than we could charge rent under the going market rates. It was just
Wasn't feasible.
yeah.
it
As
doesn't
a
make
public
sense.
entity, you're
Yeah.
not going to build something that we're going to automatically lose money on.
Absolutely.
For the
yes.
public's
You have to be fiscally
resource.
responsible. I get it. No, I think this is great. And how often do you guys meet? And
We talk regularly.
okay, well,
Since I left, I don't have to talk to him as
I
often.
think sometime in the near future, I wouldn't mind sitting with you guys and the administrator and mulling over looking at what we have also on industrial property. The city does have a good chunk, 204 acres.
Yeah. Oh, no.
On the McNulty site, or where the pole cleaning operations,
That's
they've been
promoted.
repairing barges. Is that part of the ports?
Yeah, actually, that's Railroad Avenue is where the cleanup is.
Okay.
That's a different industrial site. At McNulty, there is an old ramp there, So I think it's called Alpha Omega. Alpha Omega then pulls up some barges, and they do some interior work. There's no environmental. There's nothing that's structural. Can you not hear me?
Yeah.
Nothing structural that takes place. So it's all indoor.
They,
But,
well, what I've seen is they've been repairing outside hull shape.
Yeah.
The dents and things like that.
well, for a dent, but they shouldn't be doing any cutting, tearing, breaking, things along those lines, which could be an issue.
Better go look again, my good man.
Well, I will send Doug.
No, they have definitely been redoing the external sides of hulls there.
Like I said, we appreciate all you guys are doing. Don't take that in the wrong way. And that was good discussion right there. That's what I need to hear. You know, sometimes we're a little difficult to work with, so we need to hear that.
I have a question for Chuck.
Yes.
With all the residential building that they're doing around here and the apartment complexes and the additions to subdivisions, the new subdivisions, we really need a grocery store, another grocery store. So how do we go
Winco.
about
They
getting
want
a
Winco.
grocery store? How do we solicit a grocery chain to come out here?
There's a lot of communities that have that problem that haven't really come up with a solution. It's a market-driven thing. It's based on demographics. You can, I mean, a co-op is certainly a way to go about doing it. They've mixed success on it. I know we tried, Rainier had an even more acute issue in terms of being a food desert, and you know, they were able to attract a grocery store in there. So the commercial development isn't necessarily part of either what the port does or what CSET does. We looked at mostly industrial. So it's really a local issue in terms of trying to attract, to be willing to work, you know, with the, I think keep it local, maybe have some opportunity to look at what we could do with local farmers, and Saturday markets is another, you know, there's, I think the food carts is another good thing that the city stepped up to, that's trying to, you know, make it easier for companies to get in. That would create more demand for produce and food and stuff that, you know, hopefully shop locally. But you have a Safeway, and it's pretty busy.
It's really busy. That's what is the problem.
Yes.
No place to park.
Yeah, we had one.
It's going to be aisle rage, not road rage. It's
Aisle rage.
Don't go when the kids are there, I guess.
Yeah, that too. Okay, thanks.
All right, and I just, like I said, again, thank you guys for all your efforts in bringing business to our community. I mean, you guys are doing it. You guys are, I was just asking about our area. That was it. I didn't want it to go the wrong way, and I hope it didn't.
And if you want, I'm sure that, of course, Paul is gone, but I'm sure Doug or staff can probably give you a list of how many employees that came, who may be taking advantage of an enterprise zone, how many of those made investment or taking advantage of other opportunities. Composites, for example, part of their incentive was the fact that because they brought so many employees, it was new construction. They actually got, I think it was $50,000 from the state to help with training their workforce. And those are real incentives that will attract. But again, always you get some power issues. I mean, it's all got to balance out. It's got to make it for them that it's going to be economically sound for them to relocate.
We also introduced Boise to Letica, thinking there might be a connection there in terms of what they do with their machinery. So there's things that are going on, and we just, I mean, I don't even remember them all, but that was one I've forgotten to mention.
I'll let Doug know that you're interested in some of the statistics.
So one other thing while you're here, so I think we've talked about this before, but we talked to Scappoose about having a shared wastewater system, and they didn't want to talk to us very much. And
They want to maintain control of it.
this would open up the whole highway out there if we were to run a pipeline.
So the theory is to go, actually it's 8 miles between St. Helens and Scappoose, is to go 4 miles or a roundabout, build a facility together. They meter it from, because we are, of course, bigger than they are. They meter their side, we meter our side, you pay your fair share. You know, $26 million for 28 million, whatever Scappoose is up to now. And my understanding is that is not going to be a fix-all. Should keep them good for quite a few years.
That isn't a matter of control, it's a matter of sharing,
Right.
50-50.
Right.
You know, and combining one sewage plant rather than them them building one and us building one.
Yes.
I think that was all a non-starter, though. I was involved initially with some of the conversations there, and it
Yeah.
sounded like a really good idea to me. And I know they got one of the developers at the air park to pay for a new well. They got
Yeah.
a new well put into the agreement with.
Well, it shouldn't be just about water.
and gravel.
It's a sewer issue, too.
Yeah.
I mean, we're the bubble in Portland. Look at it. Everywhere except for Scappoose and St. Helens is blown up.
Right.
You know, I know we haven't grown that fast. I mean, if you do the population and what anticipated, but I think the anticipation is probably going to exceed and then some. Proximity to
Some
PSU.
regional water treatment district would have been, I think, a pretty interesting proposal to take a deeper look at.
Yeah, we need to get together sometime with everybody and just brainstorm these ideas. But would you recommend we go to their council meeting and propose the idea in front of them? So I don't think it's ever really talked about. Does it need to be?
Well, I certainly,
Do you guys support it?
well,
Looking at it, I think.
for us, you got to remember, we can only do what ORS 777.
Sure.
The revised statute says.
But if you opened up highway frontage property with sewer and water to it from here to Scappoose, what kind of avenue does that potentially open up?
Yeah, but again, goes back, but
ORS.
what we can,
Yeah.
the ORS, it's not, you could do these plus gray areas. You can only do this.
Yes.
But one of the areas are water systems. But I don't think of course, I can't speak for the port at all now, but.
Well,
That's what's great.
But I think you're
Come on,
fine.
give us what you really think.
Cities tend to have all powers. I mean, cities have all powers, and I think, you could definitely work with the city of Scappoose because you're both authorized to do that.
Yeah, yep. And we've mentioned it a few times, but it seems like it never gets any traction.
Right.
Yeah. So.
I can tell you the Port Commission will always welcome to hear directly from the representatives of the community. So it's not going to hurt to go back and say, hey, we have this idea. I don't know if they're going to want to take the leadership role on that, but I think they would certainly see where and if there's an opportunity to assist.
They'd have to pencil out.
Yes. Yep.
Funny thing, we can bond. I mean, there's a lot of things the port can do that's written in there. For example, I think the port, then the St. Helens, actually did all the bonding to build Trojan Power. I mean,
yeah.
Port of Morrow does all the bonding for BPA.
Everything.
So there's other avenues the port can do that may find there's an opportunity to work with you on that.
Okay. Thank you, guys. Sorry for running late back there, Susan. Okay, we're going to get an annual CDBG revolving loan fund program report.
Yes, CDBG.
Yes.
Learn how to say that.
Yes. Susan, I'll have you state your name for the record.
Yes, of course.
Yep.
Hi, I am Susan Wagner. Susan Wagner, Community Action Team here in St. Helens. We are one of your bigger employers, actually. And apparently there was a memo that went around that most of the ladies were supposed to wear blue and white stripe because they keep coming in and out. So I'm not here just to talk about the revolving loan fund, but that is the primary reason that I'm invited here. We are invited here each year. The city of St. Helens, and forgive my reading, has been an active partner in the CDBG-funded Northwest Oregon Regional Housing Rehabilitation Program since 1990. What some of you may not know is that you were actually Community Action Team's first housing rehabilitation awardee in 1984. So we've actually been, prior to the revolving fund, you guys were actually our partners, and we do appreciate that. The revolving loan program provides 0% interest, no payment loans to low and very low income homeowners of single family homes and manufactured homes if they're on private property. The loans are paid back when the person either sells the home or they change title, they may refinance, give it to a child, or, or if 30 years have elapsed. We actually have some that are more than 30 years now. And we're not holding them to that because, the homes are still affordable for the people who took the loans out to initially. Housing rehabilitation provides repairs that help improve the length of life and structure of the home, including health and safety repairs. These repairs are often paired with other funding sources such as weatherization, healthy homes, which I'll speak about in a moment, to provide a more complete repair to the home. Accessibility measures are also included in these projects oftentimes because we want people to be able to age in place. It was affordable when they were younger. Now as they're aging, we want to make sure they're able to stay in these homes rather than having to move or become homeless. The City of St. Helens revolving funds continue to be used for rehabilitation projects. Currently, we have 29 loans in the portfolio still that were initially funded through those awards, and 4 loans were repaid last year, 2 through estate and 2 through sale of the home. This program is even more important in the current economy because home prices are skyrocketing, and it's imperative to preserve the existing affordable housing stock. We need to keep it affordable, and we need to keep it there because, where else are people going to go if their homes are not preserved? We hope that the City of St. Helens will continue to entertain the possibility of being a lead applicant for future CDBG applications. We're not looking at any right now, but because we currently have one, but possibly next year. We are hopeful. Columbia County has also expressed interest in being a lead applicant. It just focuses where the money is primarily spent. We currently have the following programs in addition to CDBG. Well, that's one of the 3. The City of Astoria, and I let you know this last year as well, they were successful with their CDBG grant application, $400,000 award. Those projects are just about to start. We have 6 in the process that will start, we're hoping, within the next 30 days. It'll be about 20 total properties. It looks like we will be doing at least 1 in Columbia County as well, maybe more. This program is the standard revolving loan program, so those funds, once they're lent out, when they're paid back, they will again come back into the coffers so that we'll be able to reloan that money. This is very similar to the program that the city had in 2011 that you sponsored. Another one is our Healthy Homes program. Healthy Homes is a program for people who are on the Oregon Health Plan. We're able to do similar repairs to housing rehab and sometimes pair it with that money. Health and safety issues, things that are environmentally causing people issues in their homes, trips and falls, air quality, mold, mildew, that type of thing. We're able to fund repairs for those people who are on Oregon Health Plan. We've done 30 households so far. 90% of those were in Columbia County. The other is the Self-Help Owner-Occupied Rehab Program. This allows homeowners to use CAT's technical knowledge to do those repairs and rehabilitation that's done through housing rehab when you have to have a contractor. When they are able to, through themselves, their own wherewithal, or through volunteers, they're able to do those repairs at a much reduced cost. So we're still getting like a self-help a traditional self-help program where you build from scratch. These are people who already own their homes, but we can affordably make these repairs and make their homes hopefully much more secure for them for a lengthy period of time. We've had some really good successes here, including veterans programs. We've paired it with some veterans families that have been very successful. And so we have done quite a few. I believe about 65% have been here in Columbia County as well. So it's a lot of money coming into the county for that. There are 2 programs which we just completed in March. The Veterans Home Repair Program. We did 10 veterans households. 8 of them were in Columbia County. Several of them were this self-help program, so it was great. They were able to do a lot of repairs. We got ramps in for some veterans. Unfortunately, we had one where the veteran died shortly thereafter, but for the time he was around, he was able to easily get in and out of his home, which was wonderful. and the down payment assistance program, we were able to assist 3 families. It's a program where up to $15,000 for first-time homebuyers is available as a grant. It was a grant this time, so that they would have that ability to hopefully find a home. What we have discovered is $15,000 still isn't enough, even
Isn't
with
that something?
everything else.
Isn't that something?
They are looking in the Portland area, they were asking for up to $100,000 to be allowed to use per purchase. And that, I mean, it's kind of mind-boggling when you think about that number. That program ended in March. Depending on what happens with the legislature and funding, we are hoping that they will renew it or reopen it, but we, again, won't know till July or August or whenever they make their final decisions on what's moving forward based on the budget. Lastly, I know most of you are aware, the 16 units on 18th Street for homeless housing is just about ready, and we will be having a open house on July 19th. I'm sure if you haven't already gotten an invitation, you will. It's pretty remarkable. It's a pretty significant. It's a significant statement that the city made, that this was necessary and you wanted to do something about it, and we thank you for that. So that's all I have to present of what's going on with our programs. Did you have questions? Comments?
Other than, you do need to see it's really nice. They did a good job. Took place down there.
I believe that, yeah, 19 units, that's.
16
or
16 units
yes.
on 18th Street.
So on the 15,000, I remember when we were meeting with Suzanne Bonamucci, there was a lot of money left on the table that we were not able to utilize because you couldn't find qualified homes.
Correct. You know, we have people who could get qualified through, for instance, RD to get a low interest loan, you know, USDA. So they could qualify for that. We could put $15,000 into their pot as well for a home for them to purchase. But there's nothing out there. I mean, even if you think about, you know, $15,000, if that's 10% down, that's a $165,000 home. And what, honestly, in any of our 3 counties, are you going to find?
You're not.
They won't fund, for instance, a manufactured home that's in a park. And that's not from my perspective, an investment in a home that's as effective as a stick-built home on property. And yeah, it was a challenge, and part of it was how quickly they could move. So there might be a home that was considered reasonable and affordable, but the problem is you've got people out there with cash. You know, developers, you know, people looking to get an inexpensive rental home, or other buyers, but generally the first 2 who can just swoop in and say, well, I've got cash on the table. You don't have to wait for any kind of escrow. You know, we can do this in 10 days. Here's your money. And or there's bidding, you know, that goes up above what they can be able to afford. So it's been really unfortunate. We are hoping that with the next iteration of the down payment assistance that they will increase it so that at least our clients will be able to be more competitive in the market. But yeah, we did leave a lot of money on the table. Very, very unfortunate.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you, Susan.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for all your efforts.
Oh, you're welcome.
Les and Jennifer, or is it Jacob? Is that Marks? Oh, I thought you guys were here for historical. Yeah.
You want to give the planning commission a sort of land expression report? That'd be.
That's funny. I thought they were giving it. Go ahead, Jacob.
Okay, so annual report. Like in almost all the ones we've had, no planning commissioner wants to do it, so you get staff. But as you know, the planning commission's a different animal in that they review stuff that comes in the door and stuff that the council requests. So we have our one-pager report in front of you. Not a lot of changes. Same number of meetings as the year prior, 11. And interestingly, the month they didn't have a meeting was November in both cases. Public hearings was about the same. One thing that's different was acceptance agenda items. Those are things like site design review that they normally don't review, but they get the final decision and have an opportunity to talk about it. That almost doubled from the year prior. Workshops, planning director decisions, that's all the same. They had a couple architectural reviews this last year, and the year prior it was 0. And that's partly your fault, actually, for the building right across the street. I guess this is I think that the work you're doing here is fantastic. So I guess because the Historic Landmarks Commission did review it and you're here, it's a good opportunity to at least tell you that. It's a huge enhancement to this core part of town. Anyways, projects in process. You know, they spent a lot of time last year as the Housing Needs Analysis Committee, and of course the Riverfront Connector Plan. And it was pretty funny. Whenever we'd bring up a workshop, they'd be like, "Oh man, not again." I think they've had enough of that.
There are a lot of them there.
There is a lot, yeah. So one of the questions that the council asks is what can the council do to support the commission? And when we asked the planning commission about that, they had just received the April department report, and it just so happens that that one had 4 different enforcement cases, and I think one of them got them kind of riled up. So one of their comments was that we should have some provision that says we have a bond before someone starts a project, so if they violate something, we can just take from that bond. And I don't know what to think about it. I that's something obviously we kind of want to talk more about with them. It's almost saying that you're guilty before you're guilty. And there was 4 violation issues. One was the Bailey subdivision, and I'll end with that one. But one was Greystone Estates, and that was an erosion control issue, and that DEQ spanked them pretty good. Pelham cutting on Milton Way, that was something that was evolving over the course of years. Not any major issues, but something that we're resolving. And then there was someone living on a commercial property in the old decal building, 430 Columbia Boulevard, and that's been resolved too. The Bailey subdivision one, I can understand their concern because the consultants put together a plan saying we're going to keep these trees, and then immediately they remove those trees as well as some in a protection zone. But they have to resolve it, and we still have opportunity to impose fines and stuff. So I'm not sure how you want to take that response to the commission's, to your question of the commission about what they can do, what you can do for them. That's the report.
So are they asking us to empower them, or
No, they're asking considerations of basically code amendments to have some type of
I don't agree with a bond.
Financial deposit.
Even that much more financially impossible and unbearable.
The challenge would be you have, so on one end you have, Joe homeowner just wants to do something. Mm-hmm. They don't know this stuff. Maybe they're doing one of these projects in their entire lifetime. Those are the kind of people you kind of help them through, you babysit them. You don't expect perfection in their plans. Then you have large subdivisions where it's very complex. There's an engineer and a group of professionals involved to put something together. And, in government, we have to treat everybody equally. And if we required some type of financial instrument up front,
should be for everybody.
Yeah, and that could really be a nightmare.
So we just had the Port here in the CSAT, and they both said that part of it is us why we don't have some business here is because we are a little difficult in the building process.
Yeah, I heard him say that, and that could have been an issue of past staff, that this, they have some sour grapes over.
But I've announced to other people, like Scappoose won't require it. Oh, you need a bond here in St. Helens. 'Cause that's the way
Oh,
we do things.
yeah, I see.
'Cause that's
Yeah.
the way we do things around here.
It could also be the proposed uses that are coming in.
Say that again.
Well, it could also be the
Proposed uses.
Yeah, the types of activity they're proposing.
Yeah.
Because there's been, those Coke plant kind of proposals that come on. We just say thank you. We don't want coal dust all over town.
Yeah, garbage burning.
There's a lot of variables.
Yeah. Yep. So, I mean, that's just kind of my feeling on it, Jacob.
We have some contractors here in town that seem to be able to come within a millimeter of the edges of the rules.
Oh, I think I know who you're talking about.
And they go from using the front yard of one building site as their storage yard for another building site and so on. And their general architecture is terrible. And they seem to have a long history of doing that. Is there any way of handling some of these people who continuously know how to, we say, scrape the law?
Yeah, I know who you're talking about, and wherever they go, we get complaints. We've been dealing with it for years and years. And I know the storage issue, if they have an active building permit, then it's considered a construction site. And then there's a reason, fundamentally, to have building materials on site. If there's no building permit, then that storage can be considered a separate matter and potentially a nuisance. And I think the way they've been handling it, because we had this when they were building in the Lone Oak Estates, we got very similar complaints about storing materials on a vacant lot. And that's when we had to think, okay, well, how does this work? And that's when we had to determine that, if there's a permit, we know it's going to be a construction site and there's going to be stuff around there. I understand your concern, and nobody wants to look out their window and see a bunch of stuff. I mean, we can all understand that. The positive thing is eventually it's going to go away.
The one of the other problems was, say, I've got 3 building sites. One is storage, and the other 2 I'm building on, or even one. I'm running up and down the street as my supply yard. We've got a safety problem of heavy equipment. Now, I can see using it as a building site if it was next door. But when you've got a number of blocks between and you're dropping large hunks of stuff, or you're using the sidewalk in front of one building site as your storage.
So, yeah, and part of that, I think, is whether or not it's a traffic violation to have a forklift on a public street.
It's got to be licensed, insured, and everything to operate any vehicle on a public street with the exception of farmer implements, and then they even have to have a special type of diesel fuel. So a forklift, a golf cart, unless it's designated within the city of a golf cart community, is illegal to operate on a public roadway. So now they can get permits through the city or state or county on, moving heavy equipment, with the escort and everything. You usually see them on wide loads and stuff, but everyday usage up and down the roadways is illegal and would put put people in danger, because you can't have a forklift going on the road. It's just not feasible. So
It's a bigger, just on, because I know we all know who you're talking about. It's not a secret, but I'm not going to say the name.
Yeah.
Chief, it's a big forklift. It's like a motorized vehicle almost, basically. It probably would
like
be
a
considered-
backhoe or load, front end loader or something.
Yeah, it is. Yes, it is similar to what would be. Yes, it is a drivable unit on a road. It meets those specs as far as
Right.
Not a golf cart. Not like a
Correct. And that
backhoe.
if it meets the specifications of ORS, then yes, it's legal to be on the road.
Yes,
You
and
know.
that it is. I just want to make clear that it's not a little forklift. It's a big tired forklift. That is backhoe size. I just want to make sure that we're all clear, not.
I haven't
and
personally seen it.
Somebody's taking out here and going, "Hey, that's illegal what you're doing." and find out it's not.
Thank
illegal.
you. And then be calling us, you know,
Yes,
every,
yes,
and we're like, no,
yeah,
we're trying to explain
yeah,
it.
I
I
just wanna
agree. Thank you,
clarify.
Mr. Mayor.
Want to clarify.
One of the things as far as safety, the particular vehicle doesn't have a license plate on it, but when you're carrying a load that's 12 foot sticking out perpendicular to the line of travel because it's close by, that's really the question.
Well, correct, and that would be, you know, I hate to say it falls under common sense, but yes, if it's an unsafe load, then we're in a different arena, you know, and it's not properly marked with whether it's a red flag or something notifying other motorists. But yes, it's up to the courts to decide on unsafe load. But if you have enough reasonable suspicion as a law enforcement officer to go, common sense tells you that these pipes sticking out 12 foot into the other travel lane is not going to cut it. So yes, sir.
Or 30-foot trusses.
Okay. Jacob, are you still on my schedule? I think you are.
I think there's someone in between me. There's, I am not the letter of support for site certification.
Well, let's go ahead and go to Millard Road.
Okay, sure.
She hates it when I do this too. Go ahead. Let's go to Millard Road and just knock this out because we are on a schedule here.
Okay. So if you remember, about a year ago, we had a public forum on this. The council wanted us to explore zoning options. This is the famous or ill-famous Millard Road property that the city owned, and part of it was part of the Columbia Health District. Was supposed to be a hospital. That project didn't work out, and now we own that too. So since then, we've done some outreach in addition to that public forum and completed our housing needs analysis. And so I'm going to cover what we talked about back then. And there's several slides beginning with this one. These are the slides from the public forum. I'm not going to go into the same detail. And you were not a counselor then. Were you at that public forum? Okay. So I'll try to comb through some of the details. But the key thing is zoning. Where do we want to go with zoning? So this first slide, where are we? Just to give everybody a geographic context, look at the little red arrow. We're on Millard Road. About midway between US 30 and Ross Road. The second one looks closer at the property. In total, from Maple Street to Millard Road, we have a little over 23 acres. It's largely vacant. And there's some important roads I want to point out. Maple Street to the north, we do abut that. Millard Road to the south. And then one that came up actually recently, courtesy of Bill Amos, was Chase Road to the west. And Chase Road's important for the next slide. Okay, so there's a couple points for this slide. One, understanding that the hospital property is not this whole thing. It's only the bottom 1/3. We've always, well, not always, it was in the schools district's ownership for a long time. But we've owned that northern 2/3 for at least a decade before the hospital property development started. And one of the things that we got in association with that is an easement. And if you see the little yellow stub there on the left, so that's the easement that connects to Chase Road, if you recall me talking about Chase Road earlier. And that's the easement that I've mentioned before, Bill Amos talked about, that could potentially go away if we don't develop, quote unquote, what's labeled as Exhibit A by March 2020. And we kind of have a plan for that. Transportation, briefly, this is a exhibit from our old transportation plan adopted in 1997 or so. And the main section I want to point out is right here. This is Millard, this is Maple, and this is more or less where that property is at. So back in the late 90s, our transportation planning foresaw a collector street going through there. If we go to the next slide, when we revised our transportation plan in 2010, you still see that. So we know that our transportation plan wants some type of connection. You have a creek, you have wetlands. How feasible that's going to be, I don't know. But we should try to get something, even if it's not for vehicles. The next slide just shows some environmental constraints. So we have McNulty Creek running through there. That's showing the floodplain. It does not show the riparian area associated with that. And then we have 3 wetlands on the site that are more or less well represented there. And at least MC 15 and 17, to the 2 southern wetlands, are mitigation areas for past school district projects. So they're a little more challenging to impact because DSL will want even more compensation for those.
Definition on these areas. Are they really wet, or are they traded off for something else hidden in back history?
That's a good question. I think they were partially originally wet, and then they were designed to be wetter because of school projects.
Okay, so we're playing paperwork, but we got a problem, and they're called wetlands.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Thank you.
And it will cost us more in the mitigation bank to mitigate these wetlands because they've already been done once.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yep. Okay, so the next slide is from the Parks Master Plan. And this has been a topic for a long time. You can see the property down there. If you look at the legend, it says Future Park half-mile buffer. The significance of the half-mile buffer is our comprehensive plan says that ideally, parks serve a half-mile radius. And so when you look at this map, this one's really telling. When you look at, park properties, of course we know most of them are on the east side of the highway, and you can see that the entire community is well served given that half-mile standard. But if it wasn't for the potential future park on the Millard Road property, you would have a significant void in the southwest quadrant of our urban growth area. And so having a park there of some degree does have some importance, and it's been memorialized in our parks plan. The next slide, so this is the comprehensive plan map from 1978. Late 70s is the beginning of our modern zoning. And the reason I included this in there is to show you that this property predominantly has been zoned public lands for a long time. And the significance of that from, okay, what do we zone this thing? It's been alien to the surrounding area for a long time. And that's important because when people talk about impacts and compatibility, back in the 70s, it was zoned to be something different. It was not planned to be something different. It was not planned to be residential. And I'm sure most property owners have acquired their property since 78 who live around there. So the next slide is current zoning. I don't like that stand. It's easier to just hold it. You have a lot of blue there. And blue doesn't mean Smurf. It means public lands. Mm-hmm. And public lands is very limited in what you can do. And that's why the council asked staff to explore, well, what are we going to rezone this thing now that we control it? And I guess I'll just tell you the recommendation now and then cover the next slides. We feel that the northern portion, whatever geometry that turns out to be, should remain public lands for the park. At our public forum, there was a lot of support for a park along the creek, and we have a lot of creek access in town, but it's mostly on the other side of the highway. On this side of the highway, there isn't a lot of creek or water access, and so this would give some public access to that. And one of the things we've been scratching our head about, okay, where do we draw that line? We just pick some arbitrary line. Well, the wheels are in motion for that. Already, we hired Group McKenzie to work on a park master plan for that area, and that's going to help us in a couple different ways. Well, 3 different ways. One, we know it's an area important for a park, so what kind of park is it's going to be? That's 1, park planning. 2, it's going to help us determine where we have the dividing line between public lands and whatever the rest of this will be. And then 3, in order to lock this easement in here, we have to have an approved development application by a governmental authority. And you know what happens here? I don't know. But if we're already working on a parks master plan, and that parks master plan has some low-hanging fruit, perhaps it's phased, we could have a design review or conditional use permit for the first parts of that plan.
I like a phased development because it makes sense why get it all done when you'd be potentially in there doing infrastructure anyhow, and then maybe you want to complete it then.
Yep.
Yep.
And then that'll help lock that in. So then, what do we zone here? Back last year, staff was thinking, well, mixed use is a classic zoning where the market decides. It allows residential, allows commercial, very flexible on possibilities. And so that was kind of our thought process. The county Board of County Commissioners supports mixed use. A lot of people in the community supported it, at least a few. I have a summary of comments in there. Not surprisingly, the neighbors, they wanted a lower density zoning. And you can't blame them. I think if any of us lived there, you're defending your turf. That's a natural thing. But from a public good standpoint, we believe mixed use works. And if we go to the next slide. So this is from our housing needs analysis. And this gave us some valuable data. So we're always thinking about, okay, what's the public good? Is our decision advancing the public good? And what this analysis shows is that in the next 20 years, we already have a significant surplus of low density and medium density lands. And the natural zoning, if you looked at the surrounding planning area and zones, would be R10 or R7, which is a higher medium density land. So we don't need that, bless you. We don't need that. But it does show a little bit of a deficit in high density. And the housing needs analysis goes as far to say that the high density land could be addressed in commercial or mixed use. The other advantage of mixed use when we look at our adopted stuff is our economic opportunities analysis. Now, that was something that we adopted about 10 years ago now. But what that does is it looks at your employment lands, commercial and industrial, and do you have enough or not? And what that said is, we could be a little shy on commercial. So adding it as mixed use gives that commercial opportunity. And so we could easily say this advances both our economic opportunities analysis as well as our housing needs analysis. But this is going to take a public hearing. You have to take all that testimony before you make a decision. And for the purposes of fairness, we don't want to say, well, this is exactly what it's going to be. We want to make sure there's options. And so for the purposes of, once we progress on doing a zone change, would be to have the mixed use as an option, or the status quo option based on the comprehensive plan in the area and adjacent zoning would be R7. The neighbors express desire for R10, and I think it would be a shame to zone it R10. If there wasn't public facilities there and we have city water and sewer that can serve a higher density development, then I think there'd be a good argument for R10. But I truly believe it would be shameful for us to go with R10. But we want to make sure there is an option for you. If you're concerned at those public meetings, if compatibility raises to the top versus other things, R7 is the way to go. On the other hand, mixed use. So I think that's the way we would want to present the zone change once we formally move forward.
A mixed use, a developer could come in though, and we don't have any zoning right now for cottage clusters, right?
No.
Okay.
No, that's something we need to develop.
But that's something that has been talked about and expressed that we want to look into some type of zoning for those type of projects by the council for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Say somebody has come through and say, okay, I want to do cottage clusters around the wetlands up front, then I want to zone it to maybe a couple R5s, maybe R7, maybe even a couple R10s out back. That'd be mixed use, right?
Well, you wouldn't want to have a collage of zonings, but you could potentially have a mix of uses and land sizes.
The developer could make that decision.
Yeah, and mixed use does help facilitate a variety of uses. Mm-hmm. If your goal is to allow diversity, mixed use certainly helps that.
And I think, from a standpoint, the back area butts more neighbors' property, bigger chunks. The front area is more road frontage, maybe higher density. I don't know. I'm just throwing that out.
Yeah.
Now, those make-believe wetlands, could they be used as parks? I'm trying to use them legally. Or do I have to fence them off so nobody can get to them?
No, fencing them off, the problem is you want people to love their adjacent wetlands.
That's right. Can we use it, though?
And if you fence them off, then it becomes a bunch of briars.
Correct.
And a fire hazard. And we have had some developments where we have some trails going on the outside so people can enjoy them. I think that's important.
Does that help mitigate the turning the one part into a park? Could the wetlands be considered a park then? That's really the question.
There is a wetland to the north, and the riparian area of the creek would be a park, but the wetlands by themselves, I don't think there's enough there to really be a park of any substance.
That's my question is, could you, obviously I'm trying to use the lands for something.
You can actually use them for green space on houses. You just can't put fences there, but you.
Okay, well, I'm not worried about the fence. But I want to be able to have people be able to use it, even though it's quote a wetland.
Yeah, they can be if done right, they can be an asset to a development project.
That's what I'm wondering.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Yep.
I follow what you were saying.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because then I have a nice neighborhood, and that isn't a park; it's a wetland,
Mm-hmm.
and the kids are still running through it. And
Well, Jacob, I think you've answered a lot of our concerns. Was that Chase Road?
Yeah, so we think that, tackling, because we know there should be a park of some sort there. I don't think anybody disagrees with that. Parks Commission's considered it; they agree with it. It's just a matter of how big, how much, and that's really the first thing we need to answer, so we know where we draw the line. So if we figured the master plan out, then that gives us direction for that first development to lock in the easement. That's the logical sequence. and we don't. Well, I guess we're seeing if you agree with our approach to zoning. We won't pull the trigger on, going through the formal process until, we figure out the park stuff. But figuring out the zoning doesn't hold us back from a development permit application. And it sounded like this property was on the list for a potential police station. And I think, who told me that? Matt told me that.
We talked about it for like 10 seconds, maybe.
So at your next council meeting, we will have a kind of a discussion about police stations and general locations. We may or may not get into specific sites that staff has identified. This, since it is owned by the city, is a property on the list as a potential candidate, just for you to choose from, whether you decide to cross that one completely off the list for whatever reason you may choose, or if you choose to put it on the list, then we would have ongoing discussions about what it may look like and what the costs are and all that kind of stuff.
Okay, I guess I'm jumping the gun on that.
Maybe just a little bit, Jacob.
But it's germane to zoning, because if you were serious about that, obviously you don't want to zone it out. So right before this, I kind of looked at them, and mixed use, public lands, R7, public safety facility is possible. So it based on what I'm saying today is our recommendation, it wouldn't rule that out in the event that you go that direction.
We think you are spot on. I think the council totally agrees with what we're hearing. Right? Mixed use?
Yeah.
So public lands for the park.
I was just going to comment on, I don't believe the Dahlgren property was on your parks list. So it needs to be included, because that's just a few blocks away.
The Ross Road.
Oh, yeah.
Road property.
Yeah.
One other thing.
That's a crick too.
One other thing about regarding the mission of our Parks Commission, and their mission, in a sense, and their objective is to advise future parks and park use within the city limits, and how do you have plans to present anything to the Parks Commission so that they can take a look at, possibly recommend or not recommend the use of that park, or the help facilitate a usage of that park one way or the other? Do you have anything kind of like planned for that so that they can come aboard?
I think we kind of already moved forward on that. I mean, that's what
what?
I think we already moved forward on that. I mean, I hear what you're saying.
But no, it would be insane for us as planners not to include the Parks Commission in the discussion.
Right.
I can't imagine us coming to you, hey, here's this Parks Master Plan. We haven't talked to the Parks Commission, but we will. Jenny and I have discussed that.
Okay.
And we will definitely make sure they're involved.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Okay, so not to hurry you up along, but if you got any
Just
other,
wanted to throw one other
we
thing
are
out there while
I
we're
just want the
talking about
council to know that we are way behind schedule and we have to be back here at 5:30. Okay, I just want you to know. All right. Okay.
That,
Go ahead.
That property might be a place for us to put the ball fields that we're trying to move somewhere.
Sure, and I think that'll be part of the master planning exercise. But okay, I have what I need from you. Appreciate it.
Make it all park. Okay.
Is that your recommendation?
No, that's not my recommendation. It's not fiscally responsible when you have a chunk of real estate that it's going to line up with the future stoplight in that area. The monies could be used a lot more if you sold it and used them in different properties, would be more feasible. In my opinion. That's just my opinion, though. Okay, so we're going to move on to a request from the port to provide a letter of support for site certification program. Are you giving this to us, John?
Yeah, I'll
or
take
Kathy?
that.
Okay.
And hopefully this might get you back on schedule here. as we heard earlier from Chuck Daughtry and Patrick Trapp, this site has had some previous introduction here. The last time they came to the council and requested this industrial site certification, the council rejected it, and mostly it was because that it had a 10-year cap on the property. There was some provisions about LUBA that we didn't fully understand, and just didn't go there. But this is not that. So this is a request that gets them into the inventory with Business Oregon on their site. And it basically is very similar to a land use compatibility statement that says it's zoned industrial. It's, that's, the city acknowledges that, and then, talks about the utilities that are available and so on. But and I did confirm that with Business Oregon to make sure that they were indeed different, and that has been confirmed.
Okay.
So they're just asking for a letter of support for this shovel-ready certification.
That just recalls a head nod on this one.
It's a consensus.
Yeah.
Thing,
Yep. Yeah.
It was contentious before, and that's why I brought it to you this time, because I didn't want to be confused for what it was before, because it's not the same thing.
Okay, well, that did save some time there. That was easy. Okay, discussion regarding proposed amendments to dock regulations, John.
The long-awaited discussion relating to dock regulations. Okay. So we have that's been vetted by our legal counsel is an ordinance amending the dock uses of the city docks. It makes a couple changes to the. I can go through the changes. Redefining what an abandoned vessel constitutes. Resets the amount of time that they can stay at the docks. Boats can. That's. You can stay 72 hours in any 14-day period, and that 72 hour begins at the beginning when you arrive at the dock. That applies to any dock in 14-day period in city limits, so you can't jump from dock to dock to dock.
Or space to space. I move my boat.
Or move your boat,
Yeah.
or be anchored off the boat, or tied to the boat next to you, or
Yes.
it kind of goes through all the gaming of what we've seen in the past right here, and hopefully is a fix and gives court enforcement the tools they need to do their job. So. It also defines, talks about, strengthens the language about using the docks as moorage, because a lot of these people just leave their boat there. They're not abandoned or vagrants. There's people that are mooring their boat there for the week. You'll see a boat down there that's there, and they're not supposed to be there. During the day is okay as part of that 72 hours, but at night it's not. So you have to be there 4 hours during the night.
That becomes a problem because a number of the people traveling up and down the river will tie up and be staying at their friend's home. So the sun set to sun rise, they're not there. Where are they going to moor it? Again, I'm thinking of people traveling in boats.
I can appreciate that.
As compared to people who live locally doing it.
Yeah.
They can certainly anchor.
What if we had an overnight pass?
Well, that's the other piece. It's not part of this. That it could be instituted almost through a policy document of what that means. That if you're staying with a permit, that doesn't apply.
Because some of this language is obviously, the lawyers had a great time, but they don't run boats over long distances, stopping along the way. One of the other things that kind of comes up that caught my eye was the use of mopeds. A lot of people carry mopeds on board. That's their local transportation. But if they take it off their boat, they're illegal, the way this is written.
I think there's an exception for handicapped.
No, I'm not talking handicapped. I'm talking able-bodied person's got a moped on board that instead of getting a taxi.
They're all electric bikes.
Can't they walk it up the dock?
But it doesn't say that. It just says it's on the dock.
Yeah.
That's where I'm worried about the legal guys playing games as compared to boat people.
And we have had skateboarders and bicyclists
Jump the ramp.
on the docks doing things that are probably pretty dangerous.
Yeah. There's a whole lot under the docks too.
As well as the drunks, too. We can't talk about that. But the other one is the swimming.
What about
Nobody swims down there.
You got to be BSing me.
No.
No.
There's no
It's a hazard. There's there's no moorage that I know of around that allows swimming in their moorage because of the electrical.
Electrocution
There's been a
hazards,
lot of
yeah.
people electrocuted swimming in a moorage.
If you have a hot dock, you've got boat problems too, not just swimming problems. We also have no ladders if anybody falls over to get out of the water either.
That's a good point. Yeah, I think there's some improvements to signage related to this ordinance and maybe some safety measures for.
Maybe we could put ladders on the ends of the docks.
Actually, a lot of the kayakers have said it would be nice because
To have a ladder.
to have or a lower dock, something, so that maybe we could make the ends, with a lower dock and then come around the corner just a hair or something
Maybe around that ramp
on the
down.
inside or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I've heard that in the past.
Good point.
But the people jumping off the dock onto those deadhead pilings is really pretty frightening. So when you see those at extreme low tides and things.
Oh, yeah, we have some 3 on the south side, 4 on the north side. Deadheads are about 10 feet offshore, if you would. Can they be pulled? Removed?
Presuming
all be pulled.
If we can get a piece of equipment in there, I suppose.
Well, the question is, do we have a problem with the Army Corps removing pilings?
Well, there's a permit process.
Yeah, permit.
Because between the inwood dock and the shore, there's
Well, I would like to get a geographical map of where those are, because some people have intentionally sawed them off below the water line, just below. If we ever decide to develop that, and we need to put pylons, having them already there, they are permitted because
Well,
they're grandfathered in.
That's what we were just
And
going to
we're-
say to you and Steve, is we made Boise was going to remove all of the pilings, and we said, no, leave them, because we wanted the permits for them, yeah.
Yes.
We said leave some of them.
Yes.
Yeah.
They've removed a lot of them. So.
I have pictures of low water where they are.
Yeah.
Yeah, we need to know where those are because that way you have a permit process that says, well, they're right here. We know they were here. And
Well, if you come in with a sailboat and make a U-turn, you sure don't want to find them with a centerboard.
No, I get that.
Or
The
we
keel.
could just find out how long they can be legally to remain a piling. We could have them cut off lower so they don't bother anything, but maybe they're still a legal piling.
But they're there.
Yeah. And from a cost perspective, I think would be best to do a larger project, or it'd be when you're mobilizing, the mobilization of that equipment is going to be really
Yes.
a big cost. And once you're there, you go pretty quickly and move what you want to move. And if it's part of the boardwalk project or something like
kinda
that,
what's
we can
getting
address that. And
Finding a diver with a chainsaw is a lot cheaper than piling puller.
I think we talked a lot about this when Boise wanted to remove their piling. And once you remove them, they're removed. And if you ever want to put another one in, it's a lot of permitting, a lot of money. Once one is there, it can be maintained and replaced or sleeved very easily.
Yep.
With no cost.
Right.
Kind of changing the subject, but still staying on pilings. There's a 3-piece steel operation that's falling over. Is that going to be removed, or how is that going to be taken care of?
Don't you weld, Steve?
I can weld, but as I say, it looks like it's tipping out.
Well, so somebody says they witnessed that Glacier's tug hit that, and they said they witnessed it, and I couldn't get the name of the person who witnessed it, but they're also concerned about the osprey's nest that was trying to be built on there that can't be because of the tilt of the. But the person said that the person they talked to showed him a video of actually Glacier's tug hitting that. So just so you guys
bent
know,
towards the shore. It's bent in a weird
Glacier's
way.
tug hit that and bent it. So you know.
3-sided metal pile.
Yes.
Dolphin.
Put out a tweet for that.
Yep.
Yeah, it's
So if you need to call Glacier and say, hey, maybe, have you been running into some of our pylons? Because I suspect that some of the wood ones up above that are missing are a Glacier pilot as well. just to be honest with you. I mean, that's suspect, but
It's actually
but
called the
there's,
Dolphin. When
yeah,
there's three of them.
you're right.
Yeah.
Yep, you're right. So, anything else on this ordinance?
Can I weigh in, Mr. Mayor, on the ordinance?
Yeah.
This is actually good for us from the police department. This gives clear and concise language, and it will allow the officers, specifically code enforcement, to better do their job. Just to revisit the 9 months I've been here, the challenges they are faced are not with the regular, I would say, boaters, if you will, the people that are actually coming here. It's the homeless boaters, it's the chronic nuisance. So this gives a little bit more teeth into the ordinance and a little more clear direction of what can and can't be done. But just to piggyback on what Mr. Walsh said, I think the important piece to this is to have clear and concise signage at the docks so the boaters understand the rules.
Yes.
And then when we have to address it, it just helps law enforcement piece.
Yep.
In the end run, it will help us all. And as we approach the warmer weather, we're going to see influx in boaters, and the sooner we can get this done, the better. But from our point of view, this is much needed and gives us a better direction and clear understanding. And those docks are patrolled 5 days a week by both the police department and by Paul and the Parks Department. So we work in conjunction with each other. Plus, we do get phone calls from the community and stuff because there are times that we might miss something. And again, this allows us to when we knock on the boats and they're not there, to kind of get us going in the right direction.
As part of, thank you. As part of Brad Hendrickson's contract to keep track of that situation
he's expressed, it's not specifically enumerated, but he is very supportive of being the eyes on the docks over there for the city.
And will he be accepting or retrieving fees for staying there, collecting?
That comes in a separate document than this, the overnight piece of that. This is the ordinance for code enforcement.
Got it.
What I envisioned was a policy document that set out a process for the overnight.
I just wanted to check understanding, because it was my understanding when we entered into this that Mr. Henderson would go to all three docks and collect.
Yeah, he's offered to do that.
Yeah. Okay, and so when he collects those at all three docks, there would be documentation of who he collected the money from and what nights they were saying. So in a sense, that would certainly be an asset for code enforcement to work again with not only those other agencies, but with Mr. Hendrickson as well, as he's going around making his rounds. So I just thought, okay, even though it's in a different document, I just wanted a clear understanding of that. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay. Department reports. Chief.
Make this real quick. We have two things from the police department. First is tomorrow we have our first Thursday for June. Our topic is interaction with the police department. Officer Colton Edwards and Officer Brian Cutright will be presenting to our public of interacting with the police. Most people, our citizens, do not interact with the police except maybe on a traffic violation. So we're just going to kind of go over, why we stop people, what we do. So it'll be an interesting topic tomorrow night, 7 o'clock at the library. And again, as a reminder, in July, we do not have a first Thursday because it falls on a holiday, so we're going to take that month off. Secondly, just to kind of piggyback off of our discussion about the docks, I met with Sheriff Brian Pixley, the Columbia County Sheriff, this morning, and we have entered a verbal agreement to use their boat. So we have been researching that avenue about securing a vessel for the city of St. Helens to traverse Sand Island when need be. However, Sheriff Pixley has graciously allowed us to enter MOU. Ironically, we are already in an MOU with the Sheriff's Department from 2001.
Really?
18 years old that they found in the archives. It is so old that the boat that is listed is no longer in service. So I just got that today, and we're going to work together and refresh and upgrade that MOU, and then Detective Dusty King, as I mentioned many times before, albeit he is strikingly handsome, he's also a boat instructor, so he's going to train all of our officers on water safety. He has that ability to do so. Sheriff Pixley has equipment in his boathouse, and we're going to be able to use that. So we are looking at zero cost to the City of St. Helens Police Department for securing this boat. We just have to obtain the training. Detective Dustin King will have a plan ready to go by July 1st. He's already been tasked with that, and he's
So
eager.
minimal cost for training, and we're there.
Minimal cost for training, and we will have everybody
Perfect.
up to speed, and we can check that off about Sand Island. So, and I'll report as we go along to continue as our successes of getting that taken care of. So that's all we have from the police department this
All right.
week. Thank you, sir.
Public Works, Sue.
Just a couple things real quick. Number one, Gable Road project getting ready to start. There's some utility work going on right now that's independent of the actual county construction project, but the county's contractor, TFT Construction, they're getting ready to go. They want to do a couple of preliminary things before the actual construction starts, but it's really going to get underway as pretty much as soon as school gets out. So that's imminent. So there will be some delays and some detours around that section of Gable Road starting
That
in a
intersection
couple
is
of
going to
weeks.
be a little more packed than what normally is.
Yes,
I know,
yeah,
it
a
is
little
what it
bit
is.
more congested.
It is what it is.
Yeah, but once it's done, it will be such a huge improvement for everybody. Not only the people that live and work along that area, but for everybody that has to travel through there. It really will be a wonderful improvement. The other thing, our Plymouth Street project, the storm drain that washed out, that is virtually complete. We just need to pave it, so we are working on getting that done before the 4th of July, so we make sure that that is accessible for that particular event. And also, if you've noticed, some of the brush and the grass alongside of the roadways isn't getting taken care of as quickly as possible. We have one mower. It is broken. One mower that can do that roadside type of mowing. And it's going to take at least a month to get that fixed. Yeah, we looked into renting those. They are about $15,000 a week to rent. So that's out of the budget. However, we reached out to the county, and they have 4 of these mowers. They have a lot more road to maintain than we do. 2 of theirs are also broken, but they are getting one repaired, and there's one that they have working on a project right now, which should be complete after next week, and they have graciously offered to loan us one of their mowers for a week or 2 until hopefully we get our mower back. So by the middle of June, we should have something out there mowing again. We're trying to mow with just the regular mowers as much as we can reach, but a lot of that brush that they have the arm that lifts up and then mows along the side to keep the brush back from the edge of the road and the edge of the sidewalks. We just don't have that available right now.
I mean, if they need to run to Don's and rent one for a week, it's about $1,000 with the pole behind, 5-footer.
We can look into something like that, sure.
More, though.
I get the angles, but there's a lot that could be mowed that's not just side mowing.
Please don't mow the blackberries going around the curve on Old Portland Road between.
We will try to limit that if they don't inhibit the pedestrians, bicyclists, and vehicles.
Well, it's
that
about
go through there.
10 yards off the road, and a lot of the neighbors eat those blackberries.
We also have to get into there to maintain. There's infrastructure down in that area, so I know they've had to take care of that in the past.
A lot of times they'll run the whole road rather than just the 4 or 5 yards needed to get back there. In fact, there are holes through the blackberries right now to get to the equipment back there.
Steve, if you don't do that every year, next thing you know, it's going to be out on the highway.
That's been.
Yeah, but when we wipe out the blackberry picking, grab it and rip it down after the blackberries are picked. Then, because a lot of people enjoy getting those berries.
Okay.
So
that was just
a few other blackberry bushes.
Thank you for letting us know that,
But,
because
it's.
I was concerned about maybe the property down here that we get a brush hog on it. That's my main.
I looked at that too. I thought,
and
that
that's
as well.
why I thought maybe a week rental would, if they could do anything else around town.
If something like that might be useful for an area like that instead of the big mower. ODOT's also having a problem with their with their mower. And they also, because we had such an early growing season, you notice a little bit of brush growing alongside of the highway as well, where they usually come in to maintain. So she had to mow earlier than normal this year, and she really only has a budget to come through town twice. So she doesn't want to hit it again too soon and then have it just all grow back up again. So she's trying to schedule that in a sweet spot so that she can get it before, so it stays low. Otherwise, they don't have the opportunity to come
You
back.
guys are gonna laugh at this, but seriously, my rider is on the way out. I'm having problems with my mower too.
Yeah.
Conspiracy.
Yeah, it's a tough season on mowers. I don't know what the deal is this year, but okay. Anyway, that's all I have.
To fire them up 2 months earlier.
Yeah, we did.
Margaret,
We're getting ready to, on the 17th of June, to start our summer reading programs. Usually the first 2 days of summer reading signups, we're just swamped at the library with families coming in to get their children registered. We also have an adult reading program as well. Excuse me. The theme this summer is the universe of stories, and it's intended to give you a theme, gives you a lot of latitude to plan programs, but the focus is the universe of stories, because in July it will be the 50th anniversary of the moon landing. And so a lot of our programs focus around things to do with space and the universe. And so Crystal's working on a press release that just mentions all the different things for youth and adults that will be going on, and that will probably come out in next week's paper. That's all I have.
Matt?
I just have one thing to ask the council. A while ago, we talked about doing a public forum at the school district. I reached out to them about a location and time, and I threw out the date of the week of June 24th. They said Monday would work great on the 24th. So I'm curious if the council wants to go ahead and move forward with like a 6:30 or 7 o'clock time to do
6, yeah.
6? Okay. I will reserve that time and location for us to do a public forum again.
Yep.
For the fee.
One last one. Yep. Okay. Kathy.
I have 3 street closures to inform you of. One of them is a celebration of life that's going to be on Eilertson Street in front of Fast Boys Detailing for a celebration of life on June 9th from 10 to 9. They're just closing that part just in front of the detailing shop. The other one is for the Kiwanis Parade, Columbia Boulevard from Highway 30 to 1st Street, from 1st Street down to the veneer plant. June 15th from 11 to 2:30. And then somebody's applied for closing their street from, it's a block party from 301 to 325 up on 2nd Street, just above on the bluff, right up there, for July 4th from 2 to 11 p.m. So just wanted to inform you of those, that we went ahead and approved those. That's all I have.
Okay. Tina. Walking by with that antelope.
Yes, thank you. So I have been working on a number of projects. I met with Heather for the big parade for Spirit of Halloween Town, and I'm starting to think that this first weekend is going to be our busiest weekend. In helping her just streamline some things and having some places for people to sit at the ends of streets and so forth. I think are going to be really valuable for her, and she seems like she has it well in hand, so we just proceed along. Tomorrow is, of course, our first night for 13 Nights on the River with Hit Machine and the St. Helens High School Jazz Band, and that will start at 4:40, and we've got our signs out, so hopefully we won't have to tow anyone this year. Last year we had to tow 2 people. And then we also are working on the wine walk, which wine and art walk, which is every second Sunday. So this is going to be the next Sunday coming up. The first one was successful, and we have another addition of 4 new places that want to be part of it. So that's great. That's on First Street Sunday from 11 until 3. Then working with Brad for Sand Island Adventure and the campground and getting that online and available for people to go online to rent campsites. Excuse me. I'm also working on Spirit of Halloween Town fan club, and we'll be starting an official fan club for people that want to interact and engage with Spirit of Halloween Town throughout the year, because there's just such a demand for that. And coincidentally, I went to get a prop this morning in Boring, Oregon, and the person that sold me the prop was the chief of police for Gresham, and he's like, "Oh, we love Spirit of Halloween Town. We go there every year." I'm so excited it's going to be used there. So that was really funny. So we're just busy in getting things together and working in all ways. Stephanie and Christina Sullivan are helping to coordinate and get some new sponsors and vendors in place that are local, and that's working out really well. We have a commercial that we're working on for radio and visual that's almost completed, and we also have some new programs that the merchants are going to be able to be involved in that'll be far-reaching for Columbia County. So, does anyone have any questions?
On Sandown, there's a lot of words around that nobody's allowed to use Sandown unless they go through Brad. There's a very mixed story about what Sand Island's all about.
Okay.
Could we somehow say, hey, you can do this, you can't do that?
Well, this is the thing. Brad, of course, is kind of the in my how I perceive it is he's like the director. So if you want to do something on Sand Island that's going to make it an overnight thing or something other than just day use, I would definitely just ask him.
Well, as I say, there's a lot of rumors going on. How much
anyone can go over,
and how much of the area is still public?
Well, I believe the whole area is still public. You can go over on Sand Island anytime you want on the free shuttle.
Yeah, I'm aware of that.
Yeah.
I'm talking about kind of words to the whole community, what it's about.
Yeah, if you go to discovercolumbiacounty.com and just scroll down and read that, that's exactly what's going on. So if you're a kayaker, you can still, kayak over there and stop and hang out and have a good time. And but you know what I think the real intent is not turning it into a place where you go to get drunk and tear the place apart and leave garbage and wake up in the morning and come home.
Somehow publicly telling rather than having them to go look at it. I mean, I know where the information is. I've got good copies of it, but the people have questioned about what the whole story's about.
Well, okay,
more of a public statement is what I'm looking for.
Well, I mean, if you have a boat, nothing has changed.
Well, some people don't believe it. That's the problem.
Well, then they should experiment and see that that's the case. But I mean, if they have a boat or a kayak, nothing has changed. They can go, they can dock on the docks, they can hang out, they can do whatever they want to do. But if you've never had access to the island before, it's going to be pretty cool because you can go over there free of charge.
Yeah, as I say, it's the rumors about what is and what's not available on the island. Not what's actually happening.
I mean, I think it'll spread pretty quickly once people go, oh, yeah, I just went over there. I don't have a boat. I've never even been over there before. Now I can go over and hang out and have fun. And, I mean, the key would be if you see someone camping, I guess you don't go to their campsite and, sit down and...
Don't invite yourself in?
Yeah, don't invite yourself in. But the island's pretty big too, so there's a lot of different places where people can spread out and enjoy it. I think it'll be used way more than it has been, just because people don't have boats. Some people do, but I mean, if you did a statistical chart and said how many people own boats in this town, it probably wouldn't be 1,000.
It's not that many. Yeah.
Well,
And they're paying tax.
Exactly.
well,
Yeah.
the one thing is, could you camp down on the southern end of it, not in the trees, without paying Brad? The campsites are Brad's.
Yeah, you can't stay overnight without having a camping
For the whole
pass.
island, or just for
the whole island. For the whole island.
I thought when he had a specific area which was like 2/3 of the island, but 1/3 of the island was free.
It is during the day.
Yeah, the island's free, but the overnight camping is regulated through this Sand Island
Yeah.
Campground LLC.
Not on the beach. You can't camp on the beach then.
No.
You
It's
can
reg-
camp in your boat.
You can in your boat. You can't, and you're on the island. They have the rights to control camping.
I think that ought to be made very clear then. I mean, there's confusion of what you're allowed to do is what I'm really bringing up.
Can you camp on the beach?
If you're
Not-
below
not in
the
a
normal
camping
water
spot.
line, yes.
Yeah, I want to get
Wet- wet-
technical.
wet-
Below the water line. Oh my heavens. Good one, Keith.
So, I'm sure Brad will have something out for the public soon. I mean, he's going like gangbusters over there. It's obviously
Yeah.
not ready yet. And looking over there.
But I mean, if you're planning on staying overnight, you do need to pay the camping fee. That's what I would just tell people.
Yes.
I think that's pretty simple.
Pretty simple. If you're just going over for the day, it's free passage.
Yep.
There and back,
Yep.
which is pretty cool.
Well, now, and then, so him actually giving the rides, though, might be a fee?
No.
He's talking about doing that free, too?
Mm-hmm.
Well, he's talking about a day use.
Yeah,
Possibly.
yeah.
A day use fee.
Well,
For
he
the
that's
ride
I
up and
haven't
ride
heard
back.
that, so
For
I'm
staying
not going to
over,
say that.
For spending the day on the island. You cannot charge for the boat. But you can charge a day use fee.
But
for
to
being
my
on
knowledge, there is no day
I
use
got
fee
you.
at this
Because
time.
of legal reasons. I got it.
So don't start that until it's.
And the other thing is we did talk about that there was going to be a spot that people could just go camp, an unimproved site.
So
But
day
that's
use-
just talk. So let's stick with the facts right now, because that's
That's right. Rumors get started that way.
yeah.
Okay.
We've
Because
been
then
directing
people,
all
the rumor
communications.
continues and the misinformation continues.
All right.
Yeah, and things can change, but right now, if you stay overnight, there's a fee.
Yep. Anything else? Sounds
Nope.
like good stuff. Halloween
All right.
town, here we come. Okay, John.
Looks like we have coming back at 5:30 with
Yes.
4 public hearings, and I've looked at the agenda, and it has like an alarming number of ordinances and resolutions, and I wanted to draw attention to the resolution to the 1849, which is supporting the county's submittal for a grant to the Oregon Park and Rec Department for recreational trail development on the Salmonberry Lake property. So this is a grant that, and it's just that, it's an application for funding. It's, I think, a $500,000 ask to do trail development in Salmonberry. So, should it be approved, the resolution talks about anything that is approved up there is going to be approved by the city. So we're not losing any control here. They're just taking control of the application.
Yep.
And if there's concerns raised, I want you to know about that. And in case we're going through the resolutions tonight and kind of wondering what's all
Yeah,
about.
we're like, wait a minute, we're losing control of all of our property.
Yeah, if that's
Clarifying that.
if that's a concern, that's not, and it's a three-prong. There's this initial bucket is through some ATV funds through the parks program. Then there's also some non-motorized and equestrian in some other phases, and they've done some trail mapping and things. So, Tina mentioned 13 Nights. A little earlier, looking out the window when Jennifer and Les were here. They were admiring their new building there. We were talking about, so I guess some time ago, Shoestring Players had come to the Rose Garden and proposed a little theater, kind of a space there for the Rose Garden, and the county was receptive to that. But they since went over to the they've leased some space now. And I've been communicating with Jennifer on the wall of that building over there, and potentially, testing the council's interest in maybe coming up with something that suits our tourism needs as kind of a little theater type of space right there that the city could pursue funding for, and we'd either lease or do something with the wall that it could be a kind of a nice little.
Like a projection screen?
It could be a projection screen. It could be monitors kind of built in the wall. It could be a number of different things.
Yeah, it could be
So
multifaceted.
it could be an all-day kind of activity where it's projection. You'd lose it at night, right? So
Good
idea.
Yeah. And I would think the council would be supportive of it. The county's has expressed some support for that.
Let's create a GoFundMe site for it.
Yeah, but we need some preliminary.
So, like, I mean, you could literally have patriotic music going or something patriotic for the 4th of July. You could do for.
And it may not be all roses. It probably something that kind of raises the platform up, has a projection on the wall.
Maybe something the kids can use while we're doing 13 nights.
Some benches, or some built-in benches, and so that I take that as a
Yeah.
continue to explore.
Absolutely, I think so.
I do agree they've done a great job fixing up that building, and it'd be nice to have more like that around town, including our own building here.
Yes. Okay, anything else?
That's it.
Okay, Keith.
So John and I met with Cascades last week. They mostly talked about they gave us all the information on what they were going to happen during the shutdown, and they need a lot more extra this year for the roads going down there, because their parking lot is going to be about 3/4 used up from utility poles being replaced, and then they're also replacing utility poles on the original Castor Road going down through there by the ball field. And there's obviously ball practice and game going on during shift change, so there's going to be we're gonna block traffic from even going down that road. All the softball girls are going to have to walk over there, park in our gravel parking lot, and then walk over there. So our Public Works is got a bunch of signs ready to put over there Friday, I believe, and then Cascades will set them up early Monday morning or Sunday night or something like that. So this shutdown is starting 4 o'clock Monday morning over there. Along with that, Hamer is doing a lot because there's a lot of electricity work. So Hamer's doing a lot of work. So they asked me if they could use the back parking lots because the main parking lot is being used, and I told them yes, they could do that with John's permission. And so they want a key, a city key that we have on that lock, and then I offered one to Cascades just so they could get in any lock that they don't have a lock on over there. And then I also asked for an extra lock to put on the gate going down to the water pumps because we do not have a lock on that gate, and so I want to make sure there's a city lock on that gate.
So we can get in and out.
Yeah.
Of the pump house.
Chief, our last CAT meeting, I'm going to put my CAT hat on for a minute here. Our last CAT meeting, we had a discussion on the warming center and security. Yes. Their staff is really starting to become concerned about it. I didn't know if it was something that, during when we know those nights are happening down there, the guys could go by there more often, or maybe also go down and put on a talk to them about what they're to look for and what to do or something like that. I don't know if that would be appropriate.
Yes, we can do that.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll offline. I'll make sure that happens. I mean, I think the last time the warming center was open was like 2 months ago.
Yeah, it wasn't.
Longer.
Yeah, we didn't use it much this winter, but it's. And I can see the concerns because there's usually only one staff person in there, and they.
Correct. I understand. We'll create something to make sure that they actually have direct numbers to the officers working. So
Right. Okay.
to make sure and frequently stop by to say.
But if you can give them some because they were, I don't know, you know, I think they were concerned about, you know, different procedures and what's available and all that kind of stuff, you know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So, okay. Yes.
Is there an option for Hamer to put their own lock on there and daisy chain it so that they can unlock it independently?
Not on the new gate going to AC, because there's already 3 padlocks on there.
Okay.
The fire wanted one on there for them,
Mm-hmm.
and then Cascades has one, or no, ACSP has one, and we have one on there.
Okay. Okay.
There's already 3 on there. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
The other thing is I wanted us to think about fire season this year. If it stays dry, we're going to probably have one of the worst years ever. And I know mowing helps, but sometimes if it's grass, it's going to burn, period. And it's going to catch on. So is there any preventative measures that we can burn here and there to kind of prevent fires from happening? If we know there's a bad spot, have it burnt off so that it's no longer a danger. So just something to think about.
I
Maybe
think that'd probably be a fire department question. They would kind of be in charge of their volunteers. I don't know how strong their volunteer is anymore, even to do a controlled burn. They'd have to sit and watch it.
all depends on the burn. Yeah. So anyway, just whatever. Other than that, the shutdown's 5 days over at the mill from the 10th to the 14th, supposedly. And like I say, they're doing, PG's got trucks all over there, replacing poles and lines and whatnot. So going to be down lines during the week and all kinds of stuff going on over there. And I think that's it for now.
Good. Councilor Topaz.
Nothing. The only thing I've done of great, Keith took me over to the mill, and of all the mills I've been in, it's the worst I've ever seen. And I think we have some OSHA concerns that should be addressed. I hear that they are changing things, but there's some serious problems over there.
On my long or short-term plans, maybe next month, something like that, is to take Mike and Jeff, the fire marshal, over there and tour the mill.
I'd also worry about some of the half-destructed buildings without safety rails or wires on some of those floors. I mean, it's, as I say, it's the worst mill I've ever been in my life.
Okay, Council President Morton.
Yeah, in regards to Les Waters' testimony, I'd really like to request from the council to ask our planning department, along with our public works, to engage in a comprehensive plan for the Marina District down there, with especially in regards to the ingress and egress of Wyeth Street. Nothing really pressing, but I think that sooner or later that there'll be more and more questions about why are we dumping all that landfill in that area. It's going to continue and continue. And I think the sooner we have a comprehensive plan for what we're going to do in that area, makes a lot of sense to me to get it to get some plan down that can be, if needs to be augmented, that's fine. But I think we all agree that pedestrians need to get in and out of that area, possibly cyclists or whatever. And there's also a consideration of the emergency vehicles getting out of that area. With that being said, the possibility and potential of and not creating such a traffic dilemma that could be a one-way egress from the marina, and that makes a lot of sense in terms of controlling the traffic. That could possibly aid a tremendous amount, and that wouldn't take up such a wide area for a one-way out. So they're just ideas, and I'd like to see a dialogue started, and hopefully go forward as soon as you possibly can. I'd like to ask the council if if they're in favor of that. And that doesn't mean that the Planning Commission and Public Works has to drop what they're doing now and start on that project. But a long-range thing, you know, within a year's period would be in my mind, doable.
If I can piggyback on that, I know that was my first community commission. I can't remember what year it was, but
Yes.
it was 20 years ago or
Yes,
so.
yes.
But anyway, so yeah, so bring out those notes from the Riverfront Committee, because that's where it all started anyway.
Yeah, there is that, and at about that same time frame, we do have a tentative actual plan for a one-way egress
Good.
that would now come out of the back of that upper RV park. That connects over to 2nd Street, so that would be just for egress only and for pedestrians.
Thank you.
But it was just a tentative, you know, here's what we could do here. But it does require the material to be filled and compacted, and
it's
in order
the right
to
kind of material, right? That's going in.
That's what, yes, what we're putting in is we're making sure that is appropriate material to be able to fill and eventually potentially build on some sort of a structure, a facility, and not the material that was in there before, which was just random anything, including large pieces of organic materials, you know, tree trunks and tree roots and things that we don't want to put in there to try to fill. So we do have a grading permit, or a fill and grading permit. So we're putting limited amounts of material in there at a time. We are trying to keep the road clean. I noticed that as well. Somebody made a comment about that earlier. So we're trying to get the sweeper out there when we do put material in there. But when it reaches a certain level, we'll be spreading that out in small volumes and compacting it as we go up.
Good. And hopefully you won't have a problem with adapting that to a comprehensive plan.
Exactly. I think that's something that would be definitely worthwhile to look into now, because things have changed since those original plans were developed, and I think that there's other possibilities in that area as well.
Do you need a head nod from the council to go forward on that with no time restrictions?
Up to you guys.
It sounds like you have a comprehensive plan already on that.
Well, as Keith
Keith-
mentioned, yeah,
they're working on this.
there was a plan developed, conceptual type, but a lot of things have changed down in that area
Yeah.
since that was developed. So I think it's definitely worthwhile to reinvestigate and to look into what's currently there,
Sure.
and then, you know, what
I would
are the best
also-
options.
I think I would
at this
also
time.
like you to keep in mind, maybe, because we do have 50 foot, if it's going to be a one-way egress,
Yeah.
maybe even parking issues that are a concern down in that area.
Exactly.
Please.
Yep, you're
Okay.
exactly
So we
right.
have
You
a-
hit the nail on the
we need
head.
a council.
Had the hammer on the nail on the head.
Yeah, I think
Council.
everybody's
Something.
kind of, everybody's on board with that, Sue, okay? All right. Anything else, Doug?
That's it.
Okay. I don't have really nothing to report. I actually have a question for the reporter out there, Nicole. If you wouldn't mind answering a couple of questions I have, or just yes or no. First and foremost, you were notified of our executive session, correct? Okay. Yeah, sure, come on up for the record, because sometimes you take off in the evening. That's why I'm asking you now, and I'm sure we're gonna get some tonight.
I will be here tonight.
Yeah, it's on.
Okay, so I will be here tonight, and I'm happy to talk with you after the meeting. I don't believe this pertains to public business, but I'm happy to chat with you if you'd like.
Sure.
Usually, don't try to put myself into the meeting. I don't feel like that is.
Oh, no, I just
appropriate
need clarification that
Yeah,
you
go ahead.
did get notified of
Yes,
the
I did get
executive session,
notification.
so you were invited, and you guys did not attend.
That is correct.
Okay, because
Not
I checked with the Chronicle too, and they were invited and
Yes.
chose not to attend.
Yes, I did
just
not
want to make that clear.
Yes.
That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. We're not going into executive session, are we? It's on there, but we don't have nothing to discuss, do we? Let's adjourn. Okay, we're adjourned.
5:30.
Yeah, 5:30. 5:30.
Keith, you go into your place. Yeah, I'll swing over and get my mail.
Oh, okay.
But not the money, just the mail.
Can you give me time to run to the bank first?
The money. It all goes back into the community anyway.
I'll tell you how bad it is. The